I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything when you stand by my side. I'll
Rob, we
be like
started.
my
Unscramble your mind. Unscramble your mind. Unscramble your mind. Unscramble your mind. Stop wasting time. Unscramble your mind. Stop wasting time. Unscramble your mind. Stop wasting time. Unscramble your mind.
Unscramble mind. Unscramble mind.
What's up, y'all? It's D to the O to the T to the S. Happy Wednesday. I don't know why they got me in the first box. I have a problem with that. We already talked about this behind the scenes, but y'all already know. I don't know why I'm up here first. I don't know why instead of Big Mama. But welcome to the show.
It is Juneteenth, and we're gonna go in it, good or bad. Y'all already know I'm Sister Freedom, and I'm Big Mama. Okay, so we can ready to go winning you up.
Happy Juneteenth, everyone. It's Dulcinea. Peace and love.
Oh, who that up there on the right? Who that? Mr. Tell It Like It Is. That's who that is. That's who that be. Mr. Hayes, Mr. Tell It Like It Is.
How y'all doing? Peace to the fam out there. That's gonna make me come flick up on the camera. I can't just lay back and be a lazy bum and talk.
Nah, you gotta show your face. You up here with us. You up here with us. So you know. And we got family in the chat. Our cousin Ariana tapped in first, so let's just shout them out real quick before we get into this. Dark Goddess, welcome. I don't think I've ever seen you here, but welcome. We love that. Tuska, Alabama is in the house. Okay. Rorikus Bean, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Yancy, Myra, Mike, St. Louis in the house. So sure be well. Sorry if I mispronounced that, my love. Who else we got? Oh, Wild Indian Dawn in the building. Keith, what's up? What's up? So how y'all doing? How you doing, Rod? How you doing? What you been up to?
Who me?
Yeah.
Who else you talking to?
Um, I've been up to a whole lot. I've been on some Pinky and the Brain shit, taking over the world in real time,
Hey,
and,
damn.
and everybody think I'm just making jokes.
Nah, that you gotta that into life. You know, that's gonna manifest. You know?
I already did the work. Now I'm just waiting to see it play out in the 3D.
Yeah, that's gonna manifest.
Spiritual masters become physical masters with time, effort, and understanding.
I heard that. I ain't got no earrings on. I'm just chilling, y'all.
The secret to the secret is
concert, y'all. She was dropping it like it's hot.
I sure was. It's I'm a party all the way till Sunday. We got Kelly Price coming. We got and that's Saturday, but we got somebody named Siobhan coming. We got so many people coming up here. So yes, I had to hurry up and get home for this, but I'd have still been up there.
All right, so we're gonna get into Juneteenth, right? We have the family with us, so we're gonna unpack that, get into it, and as you guys come in, make sure you are hitting the like button, please, and thank you. And of course, Rob, we're gonna share your Cash App. We should be doing that already. Just remind me, and I'll put it in the chat, and we'll pin it.
Yeah, just you gotta put
support. It in. Freedom, I'm gonna let you share this, and we're gonna start out.
Okay.
By reading.
Glasses on, y'all know I'm Big Mama, so I'm in the glasses.
Hold on. Tell me when you guys see it, because I'm not looking at the screen.
Right, I see it, baby.
Okay, so before we get into the conversation and before Rod just start taking off, right? I thought it was a good idea if we just like start from a foundation of what is Juneteenth, how it came about, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so I'll increase that for you guys. This is from the archives.gov website. All right, on June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln's historic Emancipation Proclamation, right, which had freed the slaves, y'all, U.S. Major General Gordon Granger issued General Order Number 3, which informed the people of Texas that all enslaved people were now free. Granger commanded the headquarters, District of Texas, and his troops had arrived in Galveston the previous day. This day has come to be known as Juneteenth, a combination of June and 19th. It is also called Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, and it is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. The official handwritten record of General Order Number 3 is preserved at the National Archives Building in Washington, D.C. And, you know, to your right is just it's a picture of the letter that he wrote. Okay, here we go. General Order Number 3, right, states, the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. I know we're going to get into tenant farming, crop, and all that. Okay, let's put that there. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. While the order was critical to expanding freedom and to enslaved people, the racist language, blah, 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 that's his opinion. Hold on, I'm going to scroll down. And then it says, the last piece that I'll read, it just says that Juneteenth has been formally celebrated primarily by people in African-American communities in Texas since 1866 and later celebrated in other states. Nearly all United States and the District of Columbia currently recognize Juneteenth as an official state holiday or observance. It is the oldest known celebration commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. Just wanted to share that.
Doc, I got a couple questions about that article.
And
so
sorry, I want you to start talking, but I have to step away for 1 second. I'll be back, but I'm listening. Give me 1 minute.
You already got your eyes squinted up, and I know that squint.
I'm listening. I'm just stepping away. Rod, go ahead. You got it.
Rod, he already got his eyes squint. Like, you know, my grandma used to do that. You already knew you was going to get it.
So the Juneteenth event supposed to take place in Texas, right?
Well,
it said Texas, didn't it?
Right, Galveston, Texas.
Go ahead.
You ever heard of something called the Mexican-American War?
Yes, but go into that for people that may not know. That's taught in Texas, but I'm not sure if other states really get into that.
Well, the Mexican-American War was when the United States was trying to cross the second barrier of the Rocky Mountains. They end up being fought against the tribal natives and the Spanish who had conquered them. And they was fighting the American English-backed corporation government called the United States. And from the outcome of the Mexican-American War, the United States annexed California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, and I think Utah. That became acquired as a treaty settlement of the Mexican-American War. That's why I be laughing so hard when they call those people illegal immigrants when they ain't never left the land they from. That's all Mexico. Second of all, Mexico was one of the places when we was fleeing the captors from prisoner of war camps. We wasn't slaves. We was prisoners of war. But Mexico was a safe haven because they had already abolished slavery, and they was giving us passage into what they call the Afro-Mexican communities in Mexico. When you talk to those African Mexicans or Afro-Mexicans, what they call them, but they really just indigenous Mexicans. But they tell you how long they've been there, and it was way longer than Christopher Columbus. Now, this Juneteenth thing, the truth about it is the monetization of the season of the barbecue for the Southwestern tribes. We already celebrated that time frame long before they came. They put the name Juneteenth on it as a marketing campaign. They took something we already did, and now they can monetize it under the banner of Juneteenth. It used to be our barbecue festival, our cook festivals, when all of the tribes send their cooks for the cook-off competition for Big Mama in the South. We had them in Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama, all had these cookout festivals. And they spread all the way into what today we call Texas. And at that time, Texas was Mexico. But this is a part of ancient Mississippian culture to have cook-offs and to present new recipes to the clans. It was something we already did. They had to figure out how to monetize it. They monetized it by twigging it on to the slave narrative. Twigging it on to the slave narrative, make it appear like it's a legitimate holiday from a legitimate authority source. We legitimizing you to celebrate your natural barbecue celebrations under the banner of Juneteenth if you let us say that it was because some slaves got free. Emancipation Proclamation never freed a slave. The ruthless fighting and bloodthirsty rebellion of the Gullah Geechee in Florida, Louisiana is West Florida. The land of flowers used to go from modern day Florida all the way to Louisiana. And so when they was fighting the wars, that's what got people to break free from what we call plantation bondage. And all of that was the construct so that they could conceal the fact that they took over our family farms and called them plantations. And then they called the people who worked in service to the farm slaves. That's not true. When they did is when they came, they war campaign, they quarantined the family farms. And these people we was fighting was using that as the narrative development of the slave system to erase our history and our past from us. It was a concerted academic effort in academia. The slave plot was hatched at Oxford University. That's why the slave ship from the Emancipation Group is the perfect overlay. It's the blueprint to Notre Dame University where the slave narrative was hatched. They used it to take stuff we already did and rename it under liberation celebrations, and we ain't been liberated yet. We ain't liberated until we close this corporation down and get these imposters and frauds off the land. And it's in the works. And while that's in the works, we had to go and reconstruct our history from the slave narrative they gave us and remember our historical practices. This is tribal and this is ancient. It's not new. So they took what we already did and then they gave it a title and monetized it in that fashion. So the capitalist system can capitalize on the misery of the people acting out their natural culture. That's what the real truth behind Juneteenth is.
So
They didn't want to say this is the rebel celebration, barbecue celebration, because then they would look like they supporting the South and slavery. So they had to give it another name. But you can go look up and find flyers before 1863, Emancipation Proclamation of the barbecue celebrations going on in the South. And all of the chiefs used to come into those celebrations and solve problems related to the community and the people. We need to get back to our culture, but we need to also remember they monetized our culture. Thanksgiving is another example. When a new chief had established himself as the head of his household, he used to get a turkey from Big Mama because the turkey tail feathers represent the full feather chief. But we don't want to talk about that. They think that it's only a war bonnet for war chiefs. But the white bonnet is the peace chief. The red bonnet, the war chief. The blue bonnet is the political chief. So what is they talking about? And then you have what's called natural feathers. That means that chief he's the chief of his clan. He developed his own family structure that's operational and productive for his clan. And then they had the celebration and gave him a turkey. It's just the aftermath of the celebration, Black Friday. That's the problem when they slaughtered us because we were smoking weed and drinking all night with the settlers and they wasn't paleface.
So, Rod, let me just ask you something. So you don't accept what they're saying about Texas, about how Texas wasn't, that everybody else was being so-called freed or whatever they were doing, and that Texas just didn't want to do it? Because from my understanding, it was somebody who wanted to stop the freedom of the slaves.
Look up what year Texas became a state.
Okay. Wait a minute, I have to, let me look it up. I'm sorry.
You see it, Dots?
It says 1845. It says that. So when are you saying it says Texas officially became the 28th state in the Union, although the formal transfer of government did not take place until February 19th, 1846.
Same date. Look, when they had bondage slavery in the so-called Americas that was abolished in 1863, we was running to Mexico to escape the enemy. We wasn't running to Texas because Texas was only just now forming.
Right.
Right. So they abolishing slavery somewhere slavery don't exist.
Oh, wow.
Slavery is a condition that's from the Mississippi Delta down into Florida where the Gullah Wars was being fought because we was prisoners of war and they quarantined the family farms and made them into prisoner of war camps. That's why we wasn't mass escaping because we was already at home. They can't bring us as babies on no ships over here. We was already here.
Facts.
And we was the ones they was fighting the wars with. We was the non-treaty tribes, what they call, now they call them, in the Supreme Court call them outlaw tribes, belligerent tribes. dependent nation tribes and non-treaty tribes. We didn't have treaties with these people. Because we didn't do treaties, they did everything they can to write us out of their history because they don't got no deals with us. So anything that we naturally done, they needed to monetize it. You're going to abolish slavery somewhere where slaves was already running for freedom, according to your doctrine of the slave narrative. They run into Mexico as part of the Underground Railroad. And Mexico was Texas at the time. So you abolishing slavery somewhere slavery don't even exist. That don't even make sense.
I stepped away for a moment, so I don't know how much I missed. So I'm trying to like listen and catching on the tail end. But I had a question about the freedmen, right? So in the General Order number 3, right, that official document, right, that tells the slaves of Texas, you know, that you're free at last. Thank God Almighty, you're free at last. And there's a piece to there, and it says the freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. That's it. To me, there's a couple important sentences in that order decree number 3. But
I was wondering if anybody caught that because I've been telling them the whole time. They put it right there in front of us.
Let's go.
But I didn't want to just dissect the article because I didn't want you to feel like I was attacking your information.
Can you repeat that?
No, we want to start at the foundation and we want to
Right. So I just went back to where they really got it from and how they monetize our natural behavior.
Right, and then you bust over to the white meat, but you start at the document. You got to start at the base. You know what I'm saying? But let's talk about the freedmen and who those freedmen were. What, you know, and that's really important, right? Because in essence, what that's saying is like is that already delineates or confirms that there are. One could come to the conclusion that there are different statuses of people, that there are different statuses of quote unquote the Negro, right? Or the quote unquote Black people, right? They weren't Black at that time, but you get what I'm saying. We'll say Black as the misnomer, right? So it delineates that there were freedmen. Who the hell were these freedmen? By the way, if there's anybody in the chat, and I hope y'all understand that as I'm asking these questions, right? I kind of have an answer, you know, but it's just for the conversation. But if there's anybody in the chat, and Rod, I don't know in your family line on either side, if you have freedmen in your family line.
So we are related to some people last name Freeman. But the Freedmen was a secret society of melanated British gentry who was negotiating terms between captives of the English army that looked like us and the captives that they had. So they established something called the Freedmen's Bureau to organize the transfer of the indigenous that was captured by the settlers and the settlers that was captured by the indigenous. Over time, the title of freedman became attached to a whole category, what would be known in Europe of nobility. And then because they was being so respected by the settlers, they began to carry the last name of Freeman and Freedmen as a name. Right, but they came from England and they was part of the original royal family of England. The melanated ones that came over here after they got ran from over there to settle on our land and to displace us. They had to write us a new history that has nothing to do with who we are as a people. So they had to construct an alternative narrative as to us as we emerged out of slaves captured in Africa and kept on plantations for 400 years. That don't even make sense to me.
Can I
Ain't
answer-
nobody gonna endure that kind of suffering for no 400 years, 300 years. They gonna fight back.
So you
That's
took
just
it
the
back.
nature of the human.
Right. Okay. So those are those freedmen. And then there's also freedmen because of right what you just said, right? So according to the slave narrative, so there's about 400 years, right? That especially if you lived in the South, right? And you had melanin, you were immediately a slave. There were no free black people running around. They didn't exist, right? That's the story, right?
That's the narrative they told us.
Narrative. So the reason why I asked if any of you had any freedmen in your family line, those that were not slave, even during the time that slavery was supposed to have happened. So I know I do. And so I know I don't talk about my dad's side of the family. I often talk about my mom's side of the family, right? Because I'm matrilineal all day. But my dad's side of the family, my grandparents also played a huge role in raising me. And on my father's mother, her line, right? They come from St. Petersburg, Virginia, but Blackstone is a small town called Blackstone, Virginia. And her father's line are the Morgans. So I don't know if I have any real cousins in the chat or any kin, but their line are the Morgans. And the Morgans were listed in the census. They were free. They were not enslaved. They lived in the South, right? They lived in Virginia. On the census, and actually, I'll let you hear my cousin tell it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull that up. If anybody else want to jump in while I pull up this audio, and you'll hear my cousin actually tell it, because in everyone's family there's a genealogist, right? And he's definitely, my cousin Sean on my dad's side is definitely the resident genealogist. He's been doing this like 30 years, like solid. You know what I mean? And so my grandmother's spirit, her presence, like all last week, this week, like I was dreaming of her. I'll wake up. And it's so funny because out of the blue, he sends me a picture of my grandfather, and then he sends a picture of Jordan, the door. And then he sends a picture also of my third removed grandmother, or what have you, out of the blue. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna find this audio when I spoke to him, and he's gonna talk about the Morgans, okay? So give me a second while I pull that up, because that also kind of blows that whole slave narrative piece that if you are melanated and then you were alive in the 1800s, the 1700s, the 1600s, or what have you, then you must be a slave. And that's just not true. So give me a second. I'll pull that audio up.
You know, they used to have cards for members of a group called the Freemen that they carried with them in case they was captured. That card would get them released. Because a Freeman, that the name has a whole lot of history to it and its origin and the people that trace back through the origin.
So you saying that they, from the name freedmen, they came up with this name Freeman.
Right. The last name Freeman and the last name Freedman with a D in the middle are derived from similar backgrounds. They merged together from a surname out of the membership to a secret brotherhood.
I've heard Freeman. I've never heard no one's last name being Freedman.
Mm-hmm.
But not here.
That's how what happened over time. They stopped using the pronunciation. They started spelling it like it sounds. And when you say Freeman real fast, it sounds like Freeman. So when they was just learning the English language, they didn't use proper spelling all the time. And that came across when they did paperwork.
I seen my great grandfather on his census. I was trying to see if I can pull it up. And you know what else I found that was quite interesting in my line with King William County, Virginia. The founders of King William County, Virginia's, my grandfather and uncles are named my great-grandfather and uncles, my great-grandfather and uncles and my grandfather's brothers are named after the person who founded King William County, Virginia. It's weird. I just saw that just yesterday. I was like, wow.
That ombre, you can hit the link. We drop the link and ask him himself.
All the way back there. I didn't see no slaves. I would have thought that I would have seen, you know, something that would connect to some form of slaves or something.
You got to remember, the slave spots was hot spots throughout the South. It wasn't a continuous sweep of all the land having everybody in bondage like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the number of people compared to the number of slaves, we're talking about less than 1% of the population of the land
Mm-hmm.
that's classified as a slave on the plantation. You're not talking about a whole lot of people, but they'll have you believing that they're talking about millions upon millions of people. But we was all over the land. Most of this land wasn't settled by the so-called Americas yet, and we was there already. We was already there.
Each state got their own census time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Each state got its own census time, because I'm even looking here. I can see the census here where my grandfather was born 1898.
So wait, Ron, real quickly, let me make sure I understand. So are you saying that there was no slavery in the Americas? Is that your premise?
It wasn't slavery like they told us. We was prisoners of war. It's a difference. But we got to also remember, slave do mean prisoners of war, because most prisoners of war is forced into service.
But was
What
there?
they call.
Would you
Huh?
would you agree? Would you agree? Right? I'm playing devil. Okay, so would you agree that there were Africans brought over in bondage to the Americas for free labor and became enslaved? Do you believe that there's a population in the Americas that exists?
Yeah, most of them went to the islands in South America. They didn't come over here to the mainland.
Too. I figured
it wasn't a big amount, right? So I found the audio. I'll play it real quickly. Hold on.
Wow, my great grandfather was born.
Tell me if y'all hear it. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start with her daddy and then her mama. I don't know if y'all can see. So what are the names? So I know the granddad was
Matthew James Morgan. They called him Jimmy Morgan. His father is Mac Morgan.
Right. And he was born free.
Jimmy Morgan?
No, Mac Morgan.
I mean, Mac.
Well, yeah, they're lying. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so grandma's father was Jimmy Morgan, born around 1899. His name was Matthew James Morgan, but everybody called him Jimmy Morgan. I can send you a picture of him, too.
Yes, please.
His father was Mac Morgan. Everybody called him Mac or Mackie or whatever. And he was born in 1854.
Can y'all hear?
Yeah, and so he was born in 1854. He was actually born in Nottoway, Virginia. That's, the Blackstone area today. But he basically lived in Petersburg.
Okay. And what about, so tell me about him and how you know he was free. He was born free in the down south.
I think he was born free because I can find him since the age of like 4 in the census reports.
Sorry. Okay. Hold on, I gotta go to the second part. It's clipped, y'all. Give me a second. So did y'all hear up to that piece, to that part of him saying that he could find since he was 4 in the census record, right? And then he goes on to talk about his mother, and she was listed as head of household in 1850. When was the okay? So the first census was 1790, and I know those records were allegedly lost, right? In a fire or something like that. And then the next time the census, what was it, the 1850 or 1860, Rod? Or is it 1870?
They normally done 10 years apart.
Okay, but so she was listed on the census as head of household, and she was also listed as mulatto, but she was listed as head of household, free, in 1850. And you know, slavery didn't technically end until 1865, right? According to the documentation or what have you. So that just, I wanted to play that clip, just to, kind of like a piece of an audio, right? Just to sort of like blow up that narrative, right? And unpack that a little bit, because not everybody came from slave, not everybody was enslaved. And we know that through records, documentation, right? So I'll pull up the second piece, but y'all can continue. I'll mute up.
Most of us that wasn't coming from slavery, even the ones that lived on family farms. A lot of us lost the farm. That's why we end up leaving the South through theft by sharecropping agreements. They was doing stuff like get us 3 years in debt, then foreclose on it. If you can't pay the debt, then they use the marshals, the U.S. Marshals, to come evict us off our land. That's why a lot of us end up moving from the South, from them sharecropping agreements, land theft. We don't sell land. So they had to figure out a way to wrestle us from the land. That's how they separated us from our land.
Okay, I have it, y'all. Here we go.
We basically lived in Petersburg.
Blackstone, Petersburg. Okay. And what about, so tell me about him and how you know he was free. He was born free. Indian, down south.
I think he was born free because I can find him since the age of like 4 in the census reports. So if you see a person of color in 1860, they didn't start putting the names of African Americans until after the Civil War and after slavery.
Yeah.
So the first time they appear is in the 1870 census. So if you find them in 1860, mentioned by name, they were free.
Look at that.
So,
and his mom was also, you was telling me about his mother?
Yeah, his mother's name was Julia A. Morgan.
And she was born free as well.
She was free. I can't say she was born free. I haven't been able to go further back. But I know that in 1860 and in 1858 and 59, she was free. So she was the head of her house in 1860 and in 1858 and 59, because I have her tax records in 1858 and 59 where she.
Isn't that interesting? Of course she was. And the Morgan line, you was telling me they were business owners or?
Business owners. So Mac owned a restaurant and a barbershop. So very respected in the neighborhood, very active in the community. And and so pretty much you can find him. I found much documents on him, and I had documents where it was a document about a couple who just went crazy because they lost their home and they almost killed their kids, and and it said that it was Mac Morgan who I guess I don't know if it was the oldest son or whatnot, and Mac employed him in his in the restaurant and the barbershop to help them out.
All right, I'll stop it there. But this is, you heard that, right? This is the this is the 1800s. This is during slavery time, right? So that line, they own restaurants, right? Own the bar. He actually was in a newspaper because his mama's house kept getting his name was, they called him Mr. Mac, right? Mac Morgan. And they would raid his mother's house, you know, for like bootlegging and whiskey and all of that. But he was a staple and he wasn't a slave. So you heard it from, and that's from my cousin.
Look, they say they was raiding it for whiskey, but prohibition didn't happen to the 1900s. So why would they be raiding for whiskey? They was harassing them people.
Yeah, of course.
That's the narrative they want to tell in the aftermath, but they're using the wrong historical time frame.
Well, he goes into the story, but I stopped it because I figured, you know, it's enough talking.
Mm-hmm. So
that
they,
story because it's in the newspaper, and
yeah.
my grandmother's father is his Jimmy. He's the one who got his father out because he testified that it wasn't his father's liquor, it was his. So it was in the newspaper and everything like that. The Morgans. And they arrested him. He got out on bail. They had bail money, the whole nine. I played that again, and y'all heard my cousin mention the dates, right? That this is listed, and this is again during the time of slavery. This is before Emancipation Proclamation. This is before 1865, when his mother was listed on the census record as head of household and as a free woman.
Yeah, we wasn't all slaves over here like they telling us. That is the biggest farce, and that's what's making it so difficult to overcome their illusion, because it is an illusion that we were not already here. Because there's so many of us that accepted the narrative they gave us through their system of education that we believe that's our history, and nobody ain't asking the question, well, what was the people on this land doing before 1492? And what kind of interaction did the tribes have before Columbus came? Because that's going to tell you a lot about the nature of the people on the land. And then you can see the movements of the settlers when they get to the land. Right. And that's going to allow you to see that it wasn't as many so-called slaves as they claim, because all of us wasn't from slaves. Most of us don't have a direct line to slaves. Most of us got a direct line to sharecroppers. And they were saying that those was plantations. How can we be sharecroppers and be slaves at the same time? Somebody is altering the narrative.
What can you talk about the difference between tenant farming and sharecropping, right?
Right. So that's what they did with the tenant farms, what they did for the European. When you evict a sharecropper from the land, you have to find a tenant to caretake the crops, run the farm, basically. They trained and educated people. This is what Martin Luther King was saying, that they undergird the European peasantry with farms. This is how they got the farms. They foreclose on the sharecropper agreement, and then they give the farm to a tenant. And the tenant's payment for living on the farm is to upkeep the farm. Right? Some of them go into contracts where if they can upkeep the farm for 25 years, the person who owns the deed of sharecropper from the sharecropper agreement will give him the land. This is why most of these European farmers ended up with these big ass farms, because that's how they was doing our ancestors. Now they telling you we couldn't read or write and we didn't know how to do business. That don't make sense, because Rosewood was a bustling city.
Yeah,
New Orleans was
you can't say that to me because I just played a clip of audio and just so proof, you know, it's on my dad's line that that's not the story of our people, right? So I don't care. That's why when you talk about you know, when we talk about primary sources versus those secondary sources, right? It's like we don't care what a book says.
Yeah, because when you go tracing your heritage back and you can't find no slaves, you're gonna be pissed off. You ain't even eligible for reparations. Think about it. You don't got no slaves in your ancestry and you crying for reparations. And then now you mad because you fighting for reparations that you don't even deserve. That's why it's important for us to know where we come from. Cause they had you fighting, they fight ain't got nothing to do with you. But you just took on somebody else's burden to bear as if it's your own.
Mm.
That's not our cross to bear. We got our own burdens. We got imposters and squatters on the land masquerading like they legitimately supposed to be here while we suffering and struggling, wondering why we ain't got our natural birthright.
Let me ask you a question. Dulce Freedom, any of y'all want to say anything?
No, I was just trying to get something straight real quick, but I'm cool. Go ahead, you can ask the question. I'm sending my email.
Okay.
Let's straighten it out.
I just want to hear what you're gonna say. Okay.
Mhm.
For the cousins in the chat. Do you know if were there European slaves that were brought over to the America? Were Europeans?
You mean African captives from the Scramble for Africa wars?
No, from Europe. White Europeans from Europe. White, quote unquote.
Yes, the first so-called American slave trade was white cargo. They was captives of pale faces from England. They was captive from Ireland, Scotland. They were captive from France and from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And they was called the peasantry. And they was being forced to come in service and because they broke the goddamn law. But really, they was POWs to the dirty Moors that was getting kicked out, and they brought their hostages with them.
Now let me ask you this, Rob, real quick. Even because me and my cousin always goes back and forth with this, because he says a lot of slaves came through Jamestown in Virginia. A lot of the slave masters came over and enslaved the people in Virginia, right? And a lot of slaves came. Where I'm getting my confusion with no argument back and forth with him in a disrespectful manner, but where I'm getting my confusion is my grandfather is George T. Quarles. My great-grandfather is George T. Quarles. My great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather is George L. Quarles. Then Eli, it goes on and on with the and then after the Eli, before the Eli, George Quarles again. Right? Mm-hmm. He's saying that they were enslaved, but they're not Africans. They were already on these lands, the George Quarleses. But what I'm trying to ask him is then, so you telling me that now this is a confusing part because the people that came over and that's how King William County got its name from the Quarleses. So you telling me that, it was a big cotton plantation, according to him. So what I'm saying to him is, did they have to be enslaved, or what? They could just work for the plantation, or they had to be enslaved? Because I do know that once the invaders came over on these lands, they enslaved the people that were on these lands. So that's why I'm getting the confusement with the freedmen and the because it's puzzling to me because of the George and the James. So you telling me that my great grandparents named them after their enslavers? That don't make sense to me, but it it's possible. But yet we're royalty. Our family is royalty in Virginia. The crest, the whole nine. So that's why I'm getting my confusion on the slave part.
So this might help you understand what's taking place here. The people who was on the land that got captured as prisoners of war.
Prisoners of war, I agree.
Was given work passes to work for their freedom from bondage as a prisoner of war. In the history books, they tell you these were slaves captured from the land. but it's a little bit different from the narrative they feeding us in order to disassociate us from the land. Yeah, they caught a lot of us, and we caught a lot of them.
Now, mind you, they didn't have to be coming from Africa. These were people that was already here. That
I'm not speaking up for Africans right now because this is not about Africans.
I just wanted to be clear when I, mentally for me. That's all, because I'm sitting here looking at it with my own eyes, but my cousin and me we get into this debate, like in a sense, about it.
So in order to do business with them people, we had to take on what's called a Western name. The Western name was simple names, Mike, Bob, Joe, Bill, like that.
Right.
And then if we worked at a factory, let's say we was working at General Motors, right? So I would be Jim from General Motors, but I'm not, General Motors don't own me. I just, right now, that's who's giving me my work pass. But because it's written on paper in all capital letters, it become our straw man last name, first name. This is how they was renaming us under their system. And then we learned the meaning of their name so we can learn how to use the names they was giving us as exonyms. Most of this stuff that was written wasn't being written by us. So they was telling the story according to the narrative of the ones who's invading the land.
Right. And my whole thing is, I hate the word I assume. You know what I'm saying? That's the word that always gets to me is I assume. I assume they were slaves. You can't assume it if nobody didn't tell you that they were. You understand what I'm saying? Like that, I assume. I don't assume that. I want to know it.
Who knows the word Shanghai? Not the city Shanghai in China.
One more. I got one more question.
Oh, okay, baby. Go ahead.
The sharecropper thing and can you explain sharecropper to me, please? Just because it just sounds like I shared my crops with you. We did business together. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying I might have a different mindset on what sharecropper means.
Sharecropping is when somebody is paying you because you got land to grow crops for them. Okay. What they call cash crops. Right? So on our farms, we grow what's called diversified crops because we was feeding the whole family from one farm. And we'd come from at certain times of the year, we go to the family farm and get stocks of canned goods from Big Mama house. Right? So the sharecropper got to plot of land that's diversified, but we need to commercialize the production of corn. So I'm going to pay you to grow corn, and I'm going to buy all of the supplies, and we're going to split the profit. That's how it's supposed to work. But when they get done calculating the expenses of the one who's putting the money up to produce the crops, the person who owned the land at the end of the year is in a deficit, creating an artificial debt. Because the books is being cooked by the people that's financing the crops. The sharecropper then falls behind in the ability to repay because now what he owes the financier of the agreement, he has to pay it back, but he doesn't have anything but the farm. So the financier calls in the so-called law enforcement to remove you from his land that he's seizing because you defaulted on your sharecropping agreement. All the time he was sabotaging the crops. Mm-hmm. Flooding out the land, setting fires. So now you 2-3 years behind and you can't pay it back now.
Okay. So it's a big difference. Okay, it's a big difference between the sharecropping and being a slave. Because I thought maybe people was getting it mixed up or something.
You know the conditions of the sharecroppers and the farmers that worked with the sharecropper because he had to hire laborers. But a lot of the people that was laborers on the farm, especially if they was the children of the sharecropper, they had to work in the fields. They probably felt like they was in slavery when they hear the narrative and the description. The sharecropper farm probably does feel like a plantation to them, the way that this narrative been given to us.
Okay. Because it just, a little weird to me. Because I just don't see why anybody would be naming their kids. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you got to remember the adults was taking on the names of the new system, passing the names on to their children. It wasn't some strangers taking the names and ascribing them like that. They was taking on the names that was on their passes. They work pass, they work permits. Most of the workers of the land was some kind of skilled laborer. They had skilled trades. One man used to know how to build a house, build a barn, how to tend to the medicine of the farm animals, how to tend to the broken leg of your cousin. One person used to know how to do all that. Now you need somebody separate for every job. But when you grow up living that farm life, you learn all that stuff because you don't have money, not your resource.
Right.
Your productivity of the farm is your resource. So you learn how to do as much as you can. This is the art of husbandry. This is where all the women want a husband. They really want a farmer. Because that's the only true husband according to what husbandry is.
But we have to admit that there was some form of slavery or some form of negativity going on in the land.
Yeah, but you got to look, they controlling the narrative to disassociate us from the land. This the difference in the slave narrative and understanding you was a POW.
No, I do understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that that it's making sense. Because we got Jim Crow, we got everything that's happening. So we had to have some type of negativity because the invaders happened.
It was war. You can't get no more negative than war.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get no more negative than war. And if you go ask the Gullah Geechee that they call Seminoles down there in Florida, is the war over? They say we've been fighting nonstop for 500 years. We still fighting. We just found different ways to fight. It's all about control narratives in the historical arena. Because the one who can control the narrative can control the most people.
Right.
But if you allow the people to see what's really going on, everybody be in control of themselves now can make their own mind up with informed consent or dissent.
But I think when people listen to us talk, they assume that you're saying that there was no slavery at all, or there was no negativity, or there was no
No, they just repackaged the prisoner of war.
Name was slavery. That's the name that, call it what it is. I mean, there's no getting around it. It is what it is,
Right.
But I think that is, but I just also want to say, just like, this is with any guest, right? Like this is Rod's perspective. This is his opinion, right? I want to make that clear, just for the conversation. But after you get done, Freedom, and I'm going to ask him a question about the Shanghai thing. I don't know if y'all want to drop the link for people to hit the link to come up. Are you okay with that? So we're not on here for too long, Rod?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm Freedom.
No, no, no. What I was trying to say is because sometimes when people, when people listen, I want to make sure that they're hearing it. Are you saying when you're speaking, you're saying yes, it was some form of slavery. There was some form of negativity that happened, but it happened to our people that was already here. Not that it had to happen to some slaves that came over or whatever. They just was enslaving and being mean to the people that was already here is what I'm trying to make clear. They didn't
It's
have to
not. If
Africa.
these people was doing this for financial gain, it's not financially advantageous to pay for somebody to come from Africa to America when you got people already here.
Right. That's what I wanted you to say right
It's
there.
it's economically unreasonable, and they all about the money.
I've been saying that for I don't know how long. Why would they need to get people from Africa when there's already people of hue, of dark skin, melanated? They was already here. There was already people here. So what would they need to go all the way? I'm not saying that they didn't bring some people over and they made it to Jamaica or they made it to the West Indies or they made it to
And many of them were free even during slavery times, right? And many of those and they also were free. They not everybody that had melanin were enslaved. I just
I'm
want
not
to
saying that at all.
I know you're not. I'm saying that.
Right.
Right.
I was just trying to say that
But the narrative
it
is
never
that
made any sense to me at all, Rod. Why would they have to go all the way over to 90 days on a wooden ship? Well, why when there was already people here when you invaded the land? When you was, like you said, in war. It was wartime. It makes so much sense what you are saying. That when they came over with their guns and everything that they came over and invaded lands with, I always ask, what do you think happened to the people that was over here that they invaded? They enslaved them.
Look,
And the narrative of Africa is they putting everybody together because of the color of your skin. Now, that's the way I see it.
that's how they enforce the artificial caste system by skin color, the brown paper bag club,
I
right?
love brown paper
So I'm well aware that they had prisoners of war. But when you tell these young fiery teenagers they came from slavery or they came from prisoners of war, their response is not going to be the same. When they understand they was prisoners of war, they not going to respond the same as being told they were slaves.
Love culture. I did drop the link. I did.
So I'm not saying they didn't have people that they forced to work. They still doing today, and they call it prison.
Oh, did you want me to put that up there?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I did drop the link because I seen that some of our family was trying to say something to Rod. So I did drop it. But I'm so glad you cleared that up for me. Thank you, Rod. I did drop. I put it up, Dots. If I'm quiet. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Dots. Now she didn't.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize that I was muted. I apologize, y'all. Okay. My apologies.
Okay. You just over there talking away, huh?
Yes. So going back to when I had asked you the question of, were there European slaves, right? And then I had asked, does anybody know or heard of the word Shanghai, right? Not the noun Shanghai, not the one that's in the city that's in China, but the verb of Shanghai. And I saw somebody did a few people actually mentioned it. So let's look at the definition for the word Shanghai, or to be Shanghai, right? So as a verb, historical, force, someone to join, so someone that's forced to join a ship lacking a full crew by drugging them or using other underhanded means, right? Or informal, which is to coerce, which is to force, or trick someone into a place or position or into doing something. Would that be a definition of slavery? Would that be an example of slavery to be, so somebody shanghaied based on this definition? Could we say that that's a definition or an example of a person being a slave?
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. How many of you, let's continue to walk in the line, y'all. Y'all know where I'm going. How many of you know the name John Newton? If you know John Newton, cousins in the chat, if you know who John Newton is, just put 1 in the chat. Rod, you know John Newton, right? Matter of fact, let me see.
What's the last name you saying?
Newton, sorry. John, they got that New York accent. We don't put
John Newton.
so fast. I have to remember to stop talking so dang on fast. John Newton. Let me pull it up. Pull his thing up real quick, y'all. Hold on. Put 1 in the chat if you heard of John Newton. Newton. They got that New York accent again. All right, Freedom, share this for me real quick. I just pulled this up on Wikipedia. Let's look. Who's John Newton? Why am I bringing him up? Okay, tell me when y'all see it, because I'm not looking at the screen. Freedom? Okay. Let me see if I can enhance him a little bit more, because I'm not looking at y'all. John Newton. Does that name ring a bell? So John Newton was you see where I'm going with this?
I knew where I knew this name from. Go ahead, sweetie.
Okay, so John Newton writings were popular and widely read. Today, he is perhaps best known as the author of the world famous hymn, Amazing Grace, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Now, y'all know I sound good and I didn't even practice, okay? I was just on the, I just did that on the spot. Anyway, which was one of the only hymns, but many of his letters was published in his lifetime and are still proving inspirational reading today. But what were his letters about and why are they so inspirational, y'all? Okay. So John Newton became a public campaigner for the abolitionist movement when in 1787, he collaborated with Wilberforce and others in the formation of the Anti-Slavery Society. And in January 1788, he published his highly influential pamphlet, Thoughts Upon the African Slave Trade, describing the horrors he had seen. Now, how did this white man, what horrors has this white man, John Newton, what horrors has he seen, y'all? Why was he, what possessed him to become this now, abolitionist, right? He was an Anglican minister. He became known for struggling against the enslavement of African people. And he was sharing the horrors that he experienced. And I wonder what that was about. What do y'all think he experienced? Where I think come on, family, come on. I know y'all are very intelligent. Where am I walking with this? How would John Newton be able to talk about the horrors of slavery? Maybe because he was shanghaied. And when John Newton was shanghaied, he was sold into slavery and he was bought by who? Anybody know? Take a guess. Just take a guess. He's from Europe. So just, take a guess. It's the continent below Europe. Okay. So John Newton was sold into slavery and he was bought by Africans in West Africa, right? He was bought by the Sherbo people and they were tearing his behind to shreds. You heard? So the slavers of this white man were African. They were the Sherbo, SHERRBO. Don't believe me? Y'all can put the man name in. Put up Shanghai, it comes right up. You ain't got to believe your girl. Look it up your damn self, okay? And many Europeans were Shanghai. They were slaves. Okay, I just wanted to put a pin in that, and I'm a lamb. I think I said, okay, I'm good. I'll land it there. I just wanted to, add that to the table of ingredients that we're talking about.
Slave became synonymous term for forced laborers because of the Slavs. The Slavs was forced into servitude by the Moors in Europe. So the term slave, being the extrapolation of the word Slav, became the designation of anybody captured and forced into bondage and labor. They became classified as the slave or Slav. Now you got the country of Yugoslavia, Czechoslovenia got Slav in the middle of it. These are countries where these people was originally from. Them was your first people brought over here in bondage. They was brought over here by Moors. This is not a secret. It's just a fact of history.
Right. And
that they don't often talk about.
And since we busting this open to the white meat, what's up, Sharice? How you doing? Welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Peace and love.
Welcome. Yes, welcome. So good to see you, beautiful. And because we busting it open to the white meat, let's talk about it, right? Because even for that slave trade to happen from Africa, that meant that Africans were selling their own people. Let's remember that. They have a history, right? Because it's tribalism, a lot of tribalism. Okay? So let's if we're really going to talk about it, we got to really talk about it, right? Fact. Selling them their own people. Okay. Hi, Sharice.
Hi Dulcie. Hi, Sister Freedom. Hi,
How you doing?
Hey, y'all.
Love. Hey, I don't know what happened, how you came off, but you was up here and now you off. Hi,
yes. How you doing, Mr. Raw Hayes? Yes.
It's a pleasure. How y'all doing?
Now look at that profile, y'all. Looking all pretty. Okay. In that picture.
Okay. And look, I was looking for another one. I was like, oh man, this is not the picture that's supposed to be right there.
No, show that you look beautiful.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, so I really do have a couple of questions. Maybe just one. I think the thing that I'm grappling with the most when we're in our paradigm and when we're talking about this history is the concern around what they would call racial mixing, right? Most of the literature and things that I read, especially now, I'm reading about the Powhatan people in Virginia, and specifically the Pamunkey tribe. I'm reading a lot of things about them and trying
to. Ahead, girl, go in, girl.
Yes, so I'm reading a lot about them, and I saw those pictures, and I said, "Oh my God, if that is not us, I don't know who the fuck that is."
The Quarrel's name straight up there, right there. That's all you got to do is put it in. It's gonna come up.
Don't get her started, Sharice.
Okay. Yeah, because see, I'm from DC, and my family comes from Virginia, and I struggle with it a lot because in my genealogy, I had saw a European ancestor, and I was like, ooh, like what's going on here? And I think I think what I'm trying to ask is, I think when we're talking about things across racial lines, a lot of times I think we don't really understand how complex it can really be, right? So like when we think about Mexicans who are Black and things like that, like we don't think about it, but we know that it exists and we understand that it's there. And I think that same thing could be looked at in terms of the American context in a sense, right? So I think that what I'm trying to ask is, when we see these types of things in our genealogy, especially for people that's from Virginia and that their families descend from there, how do we deal with that? Because I think a lot of times people be like, we don't got no mixture. It's not like that, but I beg to differ, and I feel like it is, and I think that we just don't want to acknowledge a lot of it. So I just want to know how do we kind of deal with that, or try to explain that, especially when we see it in our genealogy, and I think a lot of times we don't want to be real about it. And yeah, because when I read the literature, it just says like they Native Americans, it says Africans, and it says Europeans lived harmoniously together. that they lived together, married across racial lines, like they had life together. So it's like I'm not really sure how to take it all in. So, you know, if you could just kind of, I mean, I don't know, you kind of understand me, sir, a little bit.
You on mute, Rod? Wait a minute. You on mute, Rod?
Yeah. My grandfather, my mother's father is 50-50 Native and French. My mother's mother is Irish and Native. So on both sides, European ancestry is present, but it doesn't override the genetic value of my original organic blood. They need a drop of blood to assimilate into this reality. We the ones they got to get the drop of blood from. So it's a whole lot of race mixing been going on the whole time. They didn't never stop. There was no halt on it. They tried to make laws to stop it, but it was still going on. It never changed. They came over here for a drop of blood. This is why we have a one drop of blood doctrine. America is the great melding pot. How do you meld people together? Genetically mixing up the bloodlines. So it's in the history. Some of us probably will go generations back without having no European, but every time it say white and European on your in your ancestry don't mean they was pale face Europeans.
Exactly.
White was a legal classification of the Europeans that came, and they assigned us as black because they was the attackers and we was defenders. It's a chess turn. So we all got well, most of us got some mixed up stuff in our ancestry. Accept it for what it is and keep on moving. It ain't gonna stop you from being who you is.
Okay. I totally, yes, thank you for saying that, because I think a lot of times, like when I'm presenting my information to my audience, I think that they probably think that I'm trying to make it seem like everybody is mixed. And no, I'm not. I'm just acknowledging that, you know, being from where I'm from and my family descended from Virginia, there's ancestors who were classic, you know, the classification of race was changed on several documents. And for me, it just leads into this place where it's like, damn, like I don't, you know, it's just kind of, it's sad actually, more so, like to see how they've really jumbled all of this shit up and used this propaganda against us and made it hard for us to find our families and find who we are. But, you know, I just thank God for the awakening now, and that we're here now, and that we know the truth, and that, you know, I'm never going to stop looking for the answers, because I have an ancestor, they want to say that he's part Indian when I know he's a full Indian.
Right.
So it's, you know, it just gets crazy, you know, trying to battle these forces, like even like your own family sometimes, because people think that you want something else, but really, you know what I'm saying, it's the truth, and it's been who we've always been. We've been who we always, you know, have been. We've been here, and I just hate that it's been taken from us that way, and now it's like we got to fight tooth and nail to get it all back. And
look, everybody in the family ain't supposed to wake up at the same time. Just like everybody in the society not. Our job is to be the message we bring, know who we is, and stand in our power of self. Right?
And also,
So
I'm sorry, God. I ain't mean to interrupt you.
I didn't hear you, Sister Freedom.
No, I was saying I was sorry for interrupting you, but with her saying that, what kills me, Shri, when people say, "Oh, you got African," if you got African, if say what you just said, that you found that there's different, like a undone person or Mexican person or whatever in bloodline, right? So the people that are claiming to be African say, if you got any form of African in you, you got to claim to be African. I said, but what about the other parts that's in my bloodline? So I just eliminate all them just to say I'm African?
Yeah, that's the mix up there.
That is so arrogant to me. That is so
but that's all to take us out of our land, Sister Freedom.
Oh, I understand that totally.
Yeah, all of it. It's sad.
Totally. but it's our own people that's doing that. That's saying that, so I said, well, if a white person comes up in my bloodline, so am I now supposed to say I'm white? Because it's a descendant, or a Mexican because it's a descendant? Why is it that it's African? I got to make sure that I say this big about Africa and just eliminate all
You know
of
that doctrine don't apply to natives though. That only apply to pale-faced Europeans.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying, do you see that what I'm trying to say? Africa
Mhm.
needs America, right? But we only important if we say we African. That don't make no sense to me. It irritates me to the utmost.
It don't bother me.
I'm sorry.
It don't bother me
I
at
agree
all,
with
Sister Frida.
it irritates me. I'm sorry, it does.
Let me tell you why it don't bother me.
Why?
Because while they telling me what I am, I'm showing them what I am. I'm exercising my rights that the tribes set up this system that if you ain't from the tribes, you don't know how to use it. So while I'm using this oral traditional system of the tribes, when they can say whatever they want, they call me African, I don't care. But I'm still doing some Native American shit, some organic Mississippi clay dirt walking shit, some Louisiana second line Mardi Gras shit. They call me whatever they want to call me, but they can't stop me from being who I am. So it don't bother me. I don't have the time and the energy to keep tongue wrestling with these African Americans and these unapologetically African motherfuckers about who I am. I know who I am, and they don't have to figure it out. I don't, because my ancestors left a pattern that if I follow that pattern, you gonna know where I'm from in the end. When it's all said and done,
And you
when we
can't
serving eviction notices and death penalties to traitors, you gonna know exactly who I am at that point.
change who you are anyway, because we don't have their cultures or nothing.
Look, I don't got no problem with African people.
Me neither. I really don't. I love them. I love everybody.
Me either.
Like they didn't suffer like we did.
One problem.
Like some people think because I say I'm not African, it means that I'm saying the Africans didn't suffer as bad as we did, or the same, or a different plight.
Oh,
They suffered too.
sure did.
Or even worse, they'll make it seem like, oh, you're not trying to be who you really
But
are. You're just trying to step away. No, we're not.
they just served eviction on the European nobility that was in South Africa last week.
And
All of their systems got to go.
I don't know about worse because they was over here tearing us up.
And the reason I brought that up, because they doing over there the same thing we doing over here. So I figure if you wanted to be African, you would go help the Africans collect their shit so you can be part of that motherfucking African shit. I think that's fair. If the Africans taking their shit back and you feel like you African, you should go help and assist with that fight instead of wasting your time with the petty trinkets called reparations.
Right over there. I can't.
Yeah, I also wanted to say too that I love the conversation you guys were having about sharecropping and things like that. Because I had read a lot of things about Black land theft in America and a lot of things that was going down and how they were stealing land from our people, especially upwards of like the 1950s and the 1960s. Like our ancestors owned millions and millions of acres of this land, and even down to like in Mississippi. Like they owned upwards of 800,000 acres of land, and all that stuff was swindled and swiped from them. And I'm like, you can't tell me that our ancestors from generation to generation to generation owning all of this farmland was slaves.
Just walked away from it.
Yeah. And didn't do nothing.
Well,
It's blowing my mind.
That's right. And here's another how you say example, right, or proof, right, that story is not 100% true and it's real. I know you. I mean, and it's false. Here's Hiram Rebels. I know y'all know Hiram Rebels. That name ring a bell, I'm sure. I don't even know what y'all looking at because I'm not looking at what y'all looking at, so I do apologize. I don't even know if
Yeah,
y'all
we can see it.
Y'all see it? Okay. Y'all know who Hiram Rebels is, right? Hiram was born a free man in Fayetteville, North Carolina in the 1820s, right? Now, during the 1820s, right? And he was born in the South, North Carolina. Wasn't slavery going on during this time period?
Supposed to be.
Right. So Hiram Rebels was born a free man, right? Like I said, I believe he's from North Carolina, and he became the first Black Republican senator from Mississippi. I believe like in 1871 or 1872. You guys can correct me on that with the date. I'm not 100% sure. And that's what, 7 years after Emancipation Proclamation, right? But everyone is slave, right? That's where we come from. We come from. But this is proven. This is just another example that Dots is showing you guys, right? That says that's false. That's wrong. Just saying.
I just think a lot of people think that.
Yeah, and then and Mr. Hayes, I've been struggling with the Emancipation Proclamation too. So can we just talk about that? I don't know if y'all touched on that or not, but when I came in the chat, I started, I began to hear your conversation. I'm sorry, not to cut you off, Dots. Were you finished, boo? I'm sorry.
Nah, Dot, we just been talking, politicking, running our mouths. You got the floor, sis.
I'm sorry, Dots, because I like every time you say something, like a little ding just pop up in my head, and I'd be like, oh, let me hurry up and say it.
That's okay. I got you, girl. Go ahead, jump in.
Every time you say something, I'm like, this woman is so smart. Anyway,
oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So now
Shine bright like a diamond.
Yeah, that part.
But let's talk about the Emancipation Proclamation, like more specifically in DC. So I understand that in Washington, DC, people were so-called emancipated 1 year, or I mean, not 1 year, but just some months before everyone else. I think in 1862 or 3, one of those. Anywho, when I was reading through it, DC actually had a DC Emancipated Compensated Act. So this act allocated $1 million to all slave owners or so-called slave owners and people
reparations.
who,
Yeah, in reparations exactly. For losing their slaves.
Mm-hmm. They got it gets deeper though. So the slave owners got paid, and so did the so-called slaves, only 2,989 of them. Now, upon the only way they would get, so first of all, the slave owners get $300. So they got $300 for each slave, and they got $300 for, whatever. That was the price, $300 for each slave. And if the slaves decided that, hey, so-called slaves, if they decided, hey, they wanted to go to, they were trying to send them, I guess this is so part of that American Colonization Society thing. So on condition that they would go to Haiti or Liberia, they would give them this $100 for them to leave. But if they don't, you don't get any money. And a lot of people didn't go, from my understanding. So I think about maybe they said 15,000.
Yeah, most of them didn't go.
Yeah, so a lot of people didn't go. So I found this whole narrative to try to push people on the coast of Africa very interesting, and how it's playing out today in like modern day time, like even what they were doing back then, trying to push our people off our land.
It always got to play.
So
it's going to play over.
That, sir?
Yeah, it plays over and over until we see the exit.
Yeah,
we at the exit now, because we ain't just deceived anymore. We know who we are. It's time for, they gonna figure it out, and it ain't gonna be long before they be known. It's gonna be in their face, and it will be undeniable who we is and that we was already here.
That's true. Let me ask you a question, Rob. When you were saying something about we used to barbecue, so really and truly, this is a day that we really should be celebrating. Are you saying?
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with the celebration of the holiday itself. I just believe that we have the right to know that they monetized behavior that we was already doing, and gave us a false narrative as a cover story for them to monetize it.
Okay.
Because that's all we need to know, where they stealing our money from. How they stealing our money from us?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we should be turning up to that because I don't, I'm saying just making sure.
Yeah, this used to be Big Mama festival season for the cookouts of the family. Everybody got an uncle that can burn.
Okay.
And they used to go have big family celebrations in the South. And they used to have the big cookout celebration for what would be later known as the Juneteenth time period. It really lasted from June the 19th to about July the 4th to July the 9th.
Every day.
It was different. It was different Big Mamas having festivals, but it lasted that long when they all was doing their festivals. And then you had the ones that was family jumpers. They go to their homeboy family function so he could eat out there too.
I'm just making sure Dot's ain't hear that.
You know what? But Juneteenth should be celebrated, right? It should be. Hey, yeah, and it's like it's like I'm here to reintroduce myself. My name is, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And you know how like I always tell y'all how I was raised on a piece of the game that there's the 3 types of Black people: brilliant, basic, and brain dead. And so we brilliant over here. So it is a celebration, right?
Look, every day that we here is a celebration for us. It's the other people that made it think that we need special days to celebrate.
Right. Well,
I don't know why they want to keep reminding us about it with all these celebrations.
Yeah, we are the original creators of something called a party.
Like, oh my girl, I ain't seen her.
Period.
I love it when I see the family. I love it.
The creators of everything.
Okay.
Everything. Okay. We don't got to be nobody.
Yep. Just be ourselves.
That's what I keep telling them. Yep.
We are who we are. The party from the 19th all the way to the 9th. Stop playing.
It's not one party. It's a series of them from different Big Mamas from different families.
I am Big Mama. What you talking about?
Hi, Love Culture. Welcome. I have a few more questions, but I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna zip it. I'm gonna try to hold it.
Mine's on me too. I'm shutting up.
And I'm gonna let Love Culture come in.
Go ahead, Dots.
Just check out the name Love Culture. That's all I'm gonna say. That speaks for itself.
Love Culture going once. Love.
Oh, peace, and love. I didn't know it was my turn. I'm so happy to finally ask this question. And this is a light question. Okay. And I hope this correlates with what we're talking about. I guess it's really about seeing the Chiefs walk on the land again. I guess my question, in a sense, is, why is it that we have to play it like safe as far as like for their release, like with these people who are just blatantly corrupt? Like, I mean, like if there were, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes any sense without getting so deep into it. Like,
we're not playing it safe, sweetie. We playing it smart.
Okay.
Who they gonna use to fight against us? Right now, if we was to rise up against this system, who they gonna use to fight against us? It's logistics. They gonna use us to fight against us.
Right.
They gonna dress us up in their uniforms and sick us on us.
Mm-hmm.
So why let them turn us against each other more when we could find the dirty players behind the scenes and give them a headshot? Now he can't put us against us. It's us against them, and it's more of us than it is to them.
Understood completely. Completely understood. That was just one of my questions, but I'm gonna save the others for another time because I don't think it really correlates with the Juneteenth theme.
Well, we've been all over the place, so we can go wherever you want to go.
I know that's right.
I'm so glad. Okay, yes. All right. Okay, yes, and thank you guys so much for giving me this time.
I'm
Okay,
loving that the sisters is coming up. I was wondering where Anton and everybody is, but the sisters, okay, he love it like that anyway.
okay. So, also, when it comes to Khadijah, the NOI, I believe, Nation of Islam,
Mm.
Hmm.
and I like in my head how I've kind of been putting it together.
Khadijah is the Prophet Muhammad from the Arab persuasion's wife.
Yes, I guess where I'm trying to go with this
That
is,
option.
does Empress Rarebird, did she does she take the place of um like hierarchy, if that's making any sense without me trying to explain that, Rod? Do you understand that?
Hmm. She see, um, Empress is what you call the mother of all clans. She is the chief advisor and resource manager for all tribes. Mother Khadijah is over the NOI as the mother of the righteous, following the stream of Islam over here into the Americas. So we have to conceal our culture in any foreign culture that is presented as a doctrine on the land so that we can reclaim that particular part of the culture back for the people. By Khadijah having the blood of the land and having so many matriarchs at her disposal gave her a great position to communicate through all of the communities across the land, from the $5 Indians to the Mexicans to the Arabs to whoever on the land. She got access to talk to somebody of importance in that group based on the movements of the MGT, GCC, and the FOI.
Understood.
Right. So her tribe would be our intelligence unit, where the battalion units would be like Larry Hoover's growth and development, Angel Bay's Peace Stone Nation. Those would be your foot soldier crews and your commanders and generals of the army, your rank and
Right.
file soldiers that they call the braves in their law. Right.
Ooh, great. So okay, and because I get it, I totally get it. I just needed clarity, and then I just have one more thing really quick. Um, okay, for the people who refer to, and I don't mean to be offensive to anyone. Let me say that first. But for the people who proclaim to be Moors or of a Moorish descent, or leaders of that union or community or whatever you want to call it. Um, I mean, this entire time they've been, and I understand maybe why, but I'm just saying for the main people who are like most upheld in that community, I just feel like they could have said things more straightforward. I kind of feel like they led like a whole group of people down a rabbit hole, where they could have just said like just basically talking in codes when they could have just said like specifically what needed to be said, if that makes any sense.
100% what you're saying makes sense, and I'm explaining to you why they didn't do it that way. We got something called ghetto code. You can't stand in front of your enemy talking in the language that he clearly understands about your strategy to recover your people from this oppression. So we talking code. The banner of Moor, Moor is a catch term, and it was we fought a war. It's called the War Els versus the Bays, the Chiefs versus the Feathers versus the Fezzes, under the banner of the word Moor. We got dirty Moors and we got righteous Moors. The dirty Moors is the ones that want to mislead us and tie us back into the system. The righteous Moors is the ones that's been telling the truth and teaching us not to do business with the system. And by studying the history of the Moor Science Temple, you can clearly see that they was infiltrated, and this is what caused Noble Drew Ali to not live as long. It caused his utter demise because of the infiltration. So we use that now as a study guide for the chiefs to determine how the infiltrators move. And we keep the Moor Science Temple alive because as long as we keep it alive, we can catch dirty Moors. But once Angel Bay get a word, all of the dirty Moors is on file. They know who they is. It's time to clean house. And they use misinformation and dogma to deceive. So we use messages encoded in their dogma.
Understood. Y'all, I got so many things to ask, but I'm gonna stop there to
Yeah,
give
I'm glad you
someone
asked that
else a
question.
chance. Okay, y'all giving me the floor again. Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, that more question was good because I know I
Yeah,
was
good
struggling with
questions.
them.
Yeah, cause man, I be like, well, what's really going on? Okay. Um, I'm gonna let okay, darn. I kind of want to take a step back because I want to ask more questions, but I want to let y'all go so I can really put out what it is that I'm trying to say without, saying it so just
Look, be yourself. Don't tailor your speech. Don't be politically correct because the politics is all wrong.
okay. Um, okay, on like another note, like I guess because I'm just tired, y'all. I don't know if y'all feeling like me. I'm pretty sure y'all are, but I'm just so tired and I'm drained from like just everything that's taking place. Like when you really sit down and think about it, it's extremely overwhelming and it's ridiculous. Like it's just man, I'm fed up. And but so I guess like I'm trying to just figure out like because everybody always asks like, okay, well, what's the next step? Like, what do we do next? And like I've been thinking about that too. And it's like, okay, I understand we still got, things that have to take place before we can really have everything in its correct place. But like just in the meantime, because we all are being dragged like to the ground. So I'm just thinking like, I don't know, like, I mean, and I guess it's hard to explain, but it's like, the people who are conscious, like truly conscious, or whatever part or position that you play, like I feel I'm getting the urge, like just so much to just pitch in and be all about purpose. Like, okay, if you feel like you can contribute something good for the better of the entire planet, just go ahead and start that and kick that up, rather than like even though we got stuff that's still taking place on the background, like, but like, we got to start, like, I don't know, some kind of motion, some kind of movement to move
So
forward.
if you notice, if you pay attention, you can see the movement. I'm going to show you the movement in real time. If you look around, you see more inner cities developing community garden communities where the members of the local community is growing their own food in their local neighborhood at an abandoned park or open field where houses used to be. This is going on all over the country, but they don't want to report on it because they want everybody to think we are the same level of stupid we was in the 1970s, and we not. Another thing to look at is you can see the deterioration of the old system, which means that we making progress in restoration of our system because their banks is slowly deteriorating. They running a stage show like they got a real president. Nobody don't know they watching the sitcom. right? So the ones that are aware, we looking at all that and we saying, okay, just because y'all ain't reporting it, sooner or later we gonna realize that it's more people working to get rid of this old system because we all want something better, something new, something that we can all live our best life. In the new educational rites of passage programs, we gonna be teaching children how to design your best life according to how you feel. Everybody should be able to design their life to make their heart glow the brightest. That's how you make progress in the world going into a golden age. So you teach the children early on the thing that make that piece of gold in your heart glow. That's what you need to keep doing.
I'm so thankful to be able to have just got that little bit out of my head. So I'm a yield, and I appreciate all of y'all, and I love all of y'all, and I just can't wait till better days. So yeah.
Well, I'm
Love
just
you
glad
too,
we was able to
sis.
answer some of your questions.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have to rush through it. You know, you ever heard, love, you ever heard that saying that says the more you know, the angrier you get? You ever heard that?
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's true.
It's like one of my favorite professors when I was in college, he used to always say that you know, when you leave your comfort zone and into the contact zone, you better be ready. You better be ready. You better be suited, booted, gloves on. Okay, you better get ready.
What? I'm ready. I've been ready.
You
I'm
know?
born ready.
Yeah.
Born ready.
Okay. It's
So
in
Born
you.
ready.
you know,
Yeah.
I understand your feeling of
Okay.
feeling how you like it's overwhelming. You know what I mean? And it's
Yes,
draining.
it
And
is.
yeah, you know, it's part of reclaiming that stolen legacy. It's part of like reintroducing yourself, like Cole said. You understand? It's that piece of setting your family's wrong right? You being able to
Mm-hmm.
properly and accurately identify who they are, right? By name, by land, by record, by birthright, bloodline, whatever you want to remix that, right? Um, and that's how you begin to heal your generational curses, so to speak. That's how you begin to heal the root of the family tree.
One more thing. One more thing. And then I promise I'm going to get down.
Take your time.
Okay. I'm a Sunshine State girl. Florida girl. So, you know, I never, well, family is important, obviously, but like, a few events started taking place and with my entire family. And, long story short, most of like the people that I talk to, the elder people here in Florida that I speak to, we all came from Georgia. Like they all have like this story that for some reason they left Georgia and came to Florida. So I'm just wondering, and then like I'm just wondering, like, do you know anything about that? Like why did, and then even in my own family, like they don't even have a reason why. Like nobody said why they moved. Like I don't even, like I don't understand, like, but
Tribal.
something had to
That's a
happen.
tribal migration, sweetie.
Mm.
The tribal migration was when Big Mama was in the Carolinas, saw the invasion of the conquistadors in Florida, and said, "All hands on deck. All warrior tribes report to Florida." Florida at the time extended from Louisiana all the way into the Panhandle, right? The land of flowers, those states, those lower southern states, was all one territory.
Mm.
So when they moved, if they moved before they was a state, they was listed as moving from one part of Florida to the other. But if Georgia was established and Mississippi was established as a separate state from the land of flowers, then this was after the invasion. That movement would happen later, but we never stopped fighting the war. And those of us who reincarnated that fought the war with dignity have to sometime in our lifetime return to Florida, because Florida the finish line. in order to reverse engineer the energy of that war. So you see all of the people making these trips to Florida, every excuse will do, whether it's a spring break, whether it's a Daytona 500, any excuse to get to cross Florida is we using that as the cover story for us to travel to Florida to touch the land and get back home so that they know we were successful in winning the war.
Peace to Feti Kalunga. He says, peace to all the African Americans on the panel, LOL. Shout out to them, but remember, they weren't African American until 1960. So who were they before 1960?
Shoot, Dots, it wasn't until 1988, and then it didn't get on the census until about the year 2000.
Oh,
so, like, this is a very new
Jesse
identity.
Jackson did that African American BS.
Yeah, that's a very new identity.
Who should you be piecing out to Feti before they were African American, baby? You tell me.
That is so true. What y'all just said.
That
now,
is
Love actually went into something that I wanted to ask you. When she was talking about the migration of her people, when she was saying that like her family from Georgia to Florida, and that they always speak about, and I always think about, you know, like it's like a great migration, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
In history, right, when we're talking about the quote unquote Negro. So I think of King's Philip War. So I think of these great migrations also as these are, in my mind, like when I think of the beginnings of tricking people out of their, you know, out of their birthright. So I think of the King Philip War. I think of the 1812 Indian Removal Act, and then I think of the migration that happened in the 1920s, right? Where you had a lot of the southern Negroes going to the north, or what have you, right? You wanna speak on that?
And now that you're saying that, Dots, even on applications now, employment application, it still say Black. It don't even say African American. Very seldom do I see applications that say that.
What's the or?
Mm-hmm.
And remember, Sharice, you was talking about the land, and up to 1920.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, African Zena, we got African Zena, Liberians. Salute, shout out to all the Liberians in the building. Zena coming to represent for his African brethren. Anyway, so what I was saying though is that, and up until the 1920s, you know, Negroes had over 20 million acres of land.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Out of this world.
Think about those numbers. Think about those numbers. And that's not too far after 1865, right?
Yeah, it's not too far. It's a few generations, but yeah.
Right.
To have had it for that long.
Less than a century. That's less than 100 years.
Yeah.
That in up to 1920, they owned over 20 million acres of land. How? How, Sway?
Because they was already here.
Already here, baby.
Okay.
Couldn't take it from us because it was ours.
Look, all of the land that they didn't take using sharecropping agreements, the corporation took using something called eminent domain.
Heirs property. Mm-hmm.
It was all done under the salvage rights from the crash on the Plymouth. And the squatter rights was a byproduct of salvage rights. They was giving you squatter rights to hold the property for the crown until the crown get there to claim it themselves. That's where squatter rights come from. Salvage rights is when they see us, we consider the vessel lost at sea because we don't know who he is. So they tag us with a social security number and the birth certificate, log us in the inventory, and let us roam around the land with meritorious manumission, pretending like we free slaves, when all of the Emancipation Proclamation did was change the ownership from private parties to the public corporation masquerading as the government. Mm-hmm. So they went from just brown skin, nappy hair slaves to everybody slaves now and don't even know it. Wage slaves is what it's called.
So Feti Kalung, is that Nigerian? I don't know, it sounds a little bit Nigerian, Kalunga. He says, take a 23andMe test. Most Black people only have 5 to 10% Native American ancestry. And in most cases, some
Look,
Black
Henry Louis Gates, one of the founders of 21andMe, said we making this shit up as we go. So I don't want to hear that about 21andMe. If they ain't making it up as they go, they test less than 1% of the entire DNA to try to find out where you from.
But they talking about the white people.
DNA is a farce. It say it's for entertainment purposes only. It's not for fact finding. The only DNA that's for fact finding is parental determination.
But Rod, are Native Americans the same people that we're talking about? Or is those
You talking about the $5 Indians, or you talking about the real ones?
He's saying, according to 23andMe, most Black people have only 5% Native American ancestry. So when he's thinking of a Native American, he's thinking, you know, of the not to be disrespectful, like, you know, Pablo Indian. I don't mean to be disrespectful, y'all. I'm sorry. I really didn't. But he's talking about those folk. Okay, so yeah. We got a lot of
I call them the children of the rape.
They telling you that information is made up. I'm not telling you. The people that purveys that information says it's made up. The founders of the company saying it's made up. So if it's made up, they're gonna tell you whatever they want to steer the narrative they want to push.
Are the Native Americans?
Can I ask a question, Dots? I'm sorry.
Yes, my love. I'm sorry.
So Hayes, would you say that they've used this DNA test as a weapon against our people to have
everything as a weapon against us?
Yeah, but more specifically this, because I feel like a lot of people use this as confidence that this can show them where they are from. And I don't think that that's 100% correct. We know that spitting in a tube is not going to send you to Africa. But the notion that our people are holding on to is very damaging. So to even see, like, I just think that even if they did test the Southeast region like they should, they probably would see more indigenous ancestry over here. But because they're not testing it the way that they should in the first place, we never get true congruent answers about that. So everything that you're saying is 100% correct. But like, do you feel like our people specifically are using this as some type of victimhood? They can hold on to this narrative that we are some type of slave, some type of African slave.
I do.
I think they've been successfully duped.
Mm-hmm.
I think that because they believe the science is legitimate, and they standing firm on what they believe to be a legitimate science, never knowing that the people that's doing the science is telling you they making it up. That's where the problem come in. They believe it's legitimate. Look, the sister took a swab of her iguana's saliva and sent it to 21andMe, and it said that the iguana was an African American with roots in Africa. If they were doing a real DNA test, they'd have been like, this ain't even no fucking human.
The iguana is indigenous to West Africa. Copper Goddess, I really meant no disrespect. I really want to back that up. I really meant no. I laugh at everything. That's just my personality. I really meant no disrespect. But I wanted to ask him a question in terms of drawing the distinction between the Native American that Fetty is talking about and the versus like the copper colored people that were here. Those are two different groups.
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, if they don't know that when the Spanish got kicked out of Spain, that the POWs they brought with them was Mongolians, Huns, and Vedics, that they took to these places that say Indian school and taught them how to mimic us. Them might be the Indians he talking about. Because they put them on reservations because we refused to go. Somebody had to go on the reservation. So they taught them our rituals and our culture and turned them loose on the reservation to masquerade as us. They Mongolians. They ain't from here. They from Asia. They Huns. They from Asia. Nomads of the plains of the Siberian Peninsula or whatever the hell it is up there in Siberia. They not from here. Them people not Native Americans. They Native Americans by nativity of the law. They not organic, original to the land Americans. They immigrants. They more immigrants than the people crossing the border to Mexico.
Yeah, and they around here tooting their nose up to us like they something and they're nothing the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Because they took sides with the enemy. The ones who know who we are took sides with us would tell you who we is. You know who they is, and if they friend or foe by which side they pick. They know who our enemy is. They look like us, but they ain't us. And they was the front man, the cover story, the cat's paw, to dupe us into believing we from somewhere else when we was already here. It don't work. Trick no good. The gig is up. David Copperfield, your illusion failed. One of these Negroes sing through your bullshit. It don't work on all of us. It only work on most of us.
But to me, I'm gonna say this to Rod. If we were from Africa and the Africans and there wasn't no black people here, according to them, why don't we have the African accent and all of that? That kills me. And it's really
Well, second and third generation Africans born over here don't have an accent either. They sound like they straight from the block. So that the accent itself is not enough as a disqualifier or heritage. But the way we move across the land, the dances we do, the foods we cook that we done shipped around the world teaching everybody else how to cook, that proves who we are.
Thank you. I said that just the other day when the African brother was on there. But what I'm trying to say is, if there was no black people on this land and they were the only black peoples that was here, we would have that accent. We would have their ways. They wouldn't, we'd be eating their kind of food. We'd be doing everything like them, not them do everything the opposite way. And matter of fact, and another thing, they keep saying they believe in the out of Africa theory to prove that we're all Africans, right? A lot of Europeans I talk to have had their ancestors done. They don't have no African in them at all. None. So I that's why it's too much things that is like bullcrap in this whole little narrative.
That's because it's a war story. It's a story told to validate and enforce the protocol of war. That's why they keep bringing the African thing up. But when you start talking to us more than we talking to those African Americans, then you start seeing that it's more of us realize who he is than it is of them who's duped still. It don't mean that we don't have some Africans somewhere in our ancestry because we've been marrying Africans the whole time for thousands of years. It just means that our primary blood stock is from over here. The same as the Australians. They don't got no narrative telling them they from Africa because they conquered them too late for that narrative to fly. And they didn't conquer them thoroughly enough to indoctrinate them with a slave narrative. That's why they don't tell that BS to them. But they tried.
That's
well, no, we have I think Zena came up and then Heru and then Dean, or maybe I believe
right. That's what Grace said.
Yeah. Hey Zena, what's up?
Is that Zena?
Yes, ma'am.
Zena, you know I'm not speaking to you. What you doing up here?
I've been texting you, calling you, not responding to the text and not picking up the calls.
Because I got my phone on Do Not Disturb.
You have to speak up. We can't hear you, Zena.
Zena, your phone.
All right.
No.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
He already said he got something for you. He told me on the phone he got something for you, Dad.
First, let me first compliment the brother on his knowledge aspect, the history he discussed earlier, but the war in Texas, how America took over. That was very profound. And I think everybody should be acquainted with that. I think it was during that war, it was after that war that they named, that's where the city Houston came from. By Sam Houston, he was the general that led that battle, and he killed so many people. But anyways, the question that I have for the brother is, who do you think the Moors are? You did mention the Moors earlier. Who do you think they are? Are they Black American? Are they Africans? Or are they natives? Can you please clarify, please?
More is a catch term. More is a term used to group people with a similar appearance under one banner. The grouping of the people that was conquistadors of Spain, or they was calling them then, they were Jews, but they became known as Moors when they got over here to the Americas, and we were something called Moors. And they took the two and merged the definitions together to conceal the reality that we two different groups of people. George Washington issued a challenge saying that we look so much alike. If you take the feathers off the fezzes off the Moors and the sandals off the chiefs, you wouldn't be able to know who you was in 200 years. Well, that failed miserably. They fell on their face with that one because I know exactly who I am.
So,
But more is a general, generic catch term to group different groups of people.
Right.
so
Please,
that
I hope you
means
understand that.
the Moors can be anyone. It can be Black American. It can be Africans. It can be Europeans.
Yep.
No, I don't agree with that.
Anyone
No,
who
no.
decides
Listen,
to
listen,
proclaim that
listen.
title.
Oh, no,
Anybody can claim the title of Moor, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not a Moor.
I'm not. I don't. I thought it was. See, I never seen it as a positive term. Always seen it as no different than somebody calling you the N word.
Well,
There's
it's
no
just a
land
different
called
language.
Moor.
Moor come from the French, moire, whereas nigga come from the Spanish negro. Just they
Yeah,
both mean the same. They both from Latin.
they both are negative term. Even you seen that in the movie that even though it was a movie, but the one that Martin Lawrence played in, and he was like Moor. Yeah, you calling me a Moor? Like it's not a nice word.
It was a
Well,
derogatory term.
Yeah,
And then they had classifications. You had blackamoors, which mean they was dark, and you had tawny moors, which mean they was milky white.
I mean, that's what it.
but would you say that that's just a label that was put on darker skinned people?
Well,
Yeah,
that would be that if it wasn't for a tawny moor.
Okay.
See, when you say tawny moor, because this is the Khazarian bastard offspring of the black nobility with they European wives that make up the modern day bankers.
yeah. I don't know. You know, I could be wrong about it, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I like more as a member of the Moor Science Temple. I would rather be that than to be a general Moor. A general Moor can mean anybody. Either tiny Moor, that mean you crackers. Blacker Moor, that mean you niggers.
That's true.
So the term Moor is a catch term. It's a general term to generalize a whole different multiple groups of people under one term.
That's true
Yeah.
what you said, because I think a white guy came on earlier, if I'm not
So
mistaken,
that
on Top
that
Cat's channel. He was saying he was a Moor.
so that means
Hmm.
if anyone said they are a mole, that means they have to explain in details to qualify what type of moles they are.
Yeah,
It don't
because
even matter, do it?
No, that's
well, because it's a bastard term, it
so
don't matter. I mean, you can be whoever you claim to be.
You could be a bird, a plane, a kite. You know what I'm
It
saying?
don't.
That's what to me. That's what it seemed like.
Yeah,
I'm
you can be
sure.
whatever you claim to be in a free will universe. You got the right to believe you whoever you want to be. That don't make it true, but you can still have the right to believe that.
No, but every term we use has a historicity attached to that word. So you may misrepresent what I word actually stand for. Because my idea of what the Moors means, it originates far back in history, where when Africans were taken to Europe, that's where the word Moors came from, because they will find a way to refer to this particular group of people. Some of them may say it may mean something else, but if you use the word Moors and try to add different definition to it that does not correlate with what it originally stands for, that's questionable. That's why I'm trying to understand the perspective from.
Well, you do the etymology of the word Moor. The etymology of the word Moor is not even 600 years old.
Not only that, there's no piece of land even called moorland to even attach yourself to say that you know what I'm saying? It's just literally
Well, in modern terms, those citizens of Morocco is classified as Moor. That's it. But even that, Morocco don't mean Moor.
I think Moor was initially used as a description of Africans, those that came from Africa to go to Europe.
Yeah, because before they was.
They even attached black or Moors to them, like you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. That's European stuff. That don't got nothing to do with the people of this land, though. The whole Moorish paradigm from Europe only had something to do with us is when they got kicked out of Europe and decided to come settle in America. That's where the problem we had in our interaction and communication with the group called Moors from Europe. Before they was called Moors, they went into Europe called Etruscans. Right? They set up Tuscany, which is in modern day Italy. They set up the French government, right? They set up the Spanish government, and the same people that they so-called civilized kicked their ass out. How can you civilize somebody and what did you do to make the people you civilize get rid of you?
But isn't that the history of the Moors? They came from Africa, they went to Europe, and then the Americas?
Yeah, Etruscans. When they left Africa, they first left Africa in exile because they was causing problems everywhere they went in Africa. They kicked them out of Africa and they chased them across what's known as the Pillars of Hercules, and they settled in Tuscany and set up the Italian governments that became the Roman Empire. And the ones that was chased east went north and set up the Ottoman and Byzantine empires. So these are the people we talking about. And they called them Moors in Europe. In French first, they was calling them Marais. The French was the first to call them Moors or Marais because it was, to the French at the time, a description of the people that they seen coming.
The descriptions of the Moors that you're providing is a little different from the Moors that I've studied that I know of. Even though both of them may have the same origin, the Moors that came from Africa to go to Europe, those guys were engineers, those guys were scholars. They helped to build Europe. So what you're saying does not correlate with the history that I know of. But maybe there could be little differences. But I got another question, though. My other question is, now we do agree that there were blacks. It has been agreed that there were blacks in America here before everything else. How can you then tell those blacks that were here than those blacks that came from Africa?
It's the swagger, the character, the cultural expression of the self that's natural to the people of this land that's not natural to the people from the motherland. It's the way that we do things that's culturally expressive to who we are that spreads around the world as world culture. We've been always the salt of the earth. We know who we is by the imprint we leave on the societies that absorb us, because we got a common thread in who we are and how we express ourselves from this land that's distinctly different from those people that you call Africans.
May I add to that? I just want to add to that because initially I thought I was a Moor until I kept living. And then I was like, okay, that's something different. Like it's not what you think it is. It's really not what people think it is.
It's not.
My issue with that is that we are discussing people that came here more than 300 years ago. And people that were here, they assume that more than 500 years ago.
Last
so
question.
How can we now tell
The
How
chance.
can we not tell the difference?
I just told you how you can tell the difference by the cultural expression.
Well,
Black
never-
American. My point is, Black American before slavery, after slavery, African that came here, you can see the difference before slavery and after slavery. So I think the distinction is African now that came here after slavery, you can tell the difference from blacks that were already here. But those blacks that came more than 300 years ago, and those blacks that were already here more than 500 years ago, I don't know if we can tell the difference.
What?
I can tell the difference because they my people, and I know me, so I know them.
Yeah.
I don't need nobody. I don't need no books. I don't need nobody else to tell me. I know them from the swagger. I'd improved it and over again by identifying people of African descent, second generation, who almost look like one of us, but they don't got certain characteristics that's natural to us in the way they carry themselves. They different people.
I don't see the resemblance either, Ron. I'm sorry.
Facts.
10 minutes,
That was
Sister
facts.
Frida.
I'm sorry, huh?
I said 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay, Harold, jump in.
Oh, well, good evening, ladies. How y'all doing tonight?
Yeah, real. Let me put myself up. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Okay. Appreciate you, big bro, Rod Hayes. Hey man, everything you saying is matching up to this research I'm doing with these Florida, well, actually North American maps. I'm noticing. I was like, how the French, they call Florida almost all the way up to Chicago, but it's called Chiaga on the map. And then I was wondering, I said, a lot of these cities, I'm interested in these Mongols and these setup camps, because I'm seeing little Asian names, certain little cities here. I wrote a bunch of names down I was going to research, like these cities that start with an X. See, I've been on soccer. I know that's Guatemala with the V sound, like Zylatina and Zwalatina and Zwaquili and Zwalachin, and these different cities is kind of.
Those are tribal. That's Native American. That's Mesoamerican linguistics with the X's and the Z's is heavily prominent in their transliteration of their language into English. So they using the X's and the Z's to show you the connection to the people of the land, because they use it a lot in transliterating terms and words from the Mesoamerican culture that they call today Mexico or southwestern United States.
Yeah, because I was looking at the first North American map. I said, it's proof Florida was its own people by itself, in a sense. And they had a little trade going on with the ports of Zambique and Alger and Tunisia, all these different seaports in the 1500. I said, there's no way they came over here and made all these towns. It's too many. It's like, and some of them you could tell they was the original names. They just probably spelt them the best way they could spell them in their language. You know, they just imagine you a white explorer. You get there, you say, hey, we the such and such people. This is how we talk. You know, they're gonna write that same sound down the best way they can spell it. So sometimes studying these maps really point you in the right direction. All I can say is, so what do you think the Florida people originally is? The
tribes that made up the people of Florida was a whole lot of tribes. They want us to believe that we were separated far wide away from each other in small little groups of packed around teepees in the fire. That's some bullshit. Chicago is an ancient metropolis that had been there. They tell us that it was founded by Jean-Baptiste du Sable. The problem with that is that before it was called Chicago, it was called Shalaga, and it was already there. And we've been knowing about it since Atlantean days because it was always a metropolis. The same with Los Angeles, the same with Atlanta, the same with Philadelphia, the same with Memphis, all these ancient metropolis, same with New York, the same with Boston. This is where we congregated to do commerce and trade, and that's why they had to take over and rename all of our commerce and trade centers in order for us to be under their jurisdictional authority.
Yeah, the map show it. It's almost evident. But last thing I say, am I over? I guess I don't know what the word too harsh for saying. I think we just all need to come back to the sun. We all the sun people. And everybody want to argue. I'm an American. I'm an African. I'm Hebrew. I'm Israelite. I had this fight with my brothers a long time ago. I said, we ain't had no books, no nothing. We could look up and see the sun gives us all. And y'all, the reason why every time you dig up some ancient people, whoever it be, they got something of the sun. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand the connections magnetically, the water connection, the heat atmospheric connection, the connection from the black hole, the connection from the beginning of it. They don't understand it. And it'll be the one common denominator. And we'll forget all the arguments about this, that, and the other, because we're one under the sun. Am I too harsh for saying that? And I'm out. I love y'all.
Peace, Haru. That would come from Haru. Talk about the sun. You up, Dean?
What up, Dean? What up, Dean?
What up? What up? Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Loud and clear.
Yep. Hi, Dots. Sister Freedom, thank you for having me, as always. I just want to spread my love. Enjoying the show again. Brother Rod.
Peace, Dean. What's going on, my brother?
I'm all right. I just want to go off what you guys said. And to anybody who want to ask why we know that we indigenous to the land, is because when we touch the flow speaks back to us. We were naturally born super empathic in nature. Our radar was on since we were kids. So this is the torment that we dealt with and had to face against the opposition. Sometimes the opposition was in our own family because the energy was off. So the more we learn that some of those people infiltrated our family and the energy is still there. So the ancestors have to send the warrior ones to come fix it up. Right? So when I touch the ground, I live in Canada. My pops is from Jamaica. He indigenous to over there. And my mom's from Guyana. And she indigenous to over there. But when I touch the land, this always feels like home. Whether I go to Miami, New York, anywhere, this place always feels like home. And there's nobody in this world that can tell me no different. Because that empathic nature, that's your guide. And that's how we know we indigenous, because the indigenous people, we speak from a different place. And we deny it so much that it drives us crazy until we find the truth. And when we find the truth, ain't nobody, we don't care what you think. You can have all your paperwork. But when the soul speaks to you and the spirit and the ancestors speak to you, can't tell you nothing. You can have that paperwork. And that's all I got to say. I love y'all. I'm here for y'all. And I'm always here to support y'all. Thank you.
We appreciate you, Dean. Always appreciate you. Y'all gonna leave Zena alone in the chat. Y'all listen, Zena is our African brother, okay? He is our African brother. You heard? Y'all gonna leave our cousin alone in the chat. He's got unscrambled mind. He's a part of the grown community, right? It's just that, y'all gonna leave him alone. Zena has a lot of heart and courage. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. That's for sure. Anybody else want to has anything else to say for Rod before we drop down? Oh, Nakfa. I don't know why you didn't hit the link, because you could have asked that question yourself. But he asked, what is your language, ancient language? I think that's what the question was. And he keeps spamming the chat, so he really wants to know. Since, he wants to know what's the name of the language. Okay, he says they can't tell us what language they was. What's the original language? I'll wait for the ancient language y'all spoken in now. Do you want to address that, Rod, at all?
What was the question, sweetie? I didn't hear you.
He says that he bet that they can't tell us what language that it was. He wants to know what the ancient language that y'all spoke then and now.
The ancient language is telepathy, and we still speak it.
Okay, that was a smart answer.
You did ask for the ancient language, right?
That's what he asked.
Yeah, the ancient language is telepathy, and we still speak it.
So that's Rod's answer to you.
I got one more question for the entire platform. If you guys.
Damn.
You gotta let somebody else answer.
Zena, let Shadow come in real quick, and then you can go, Zena. Go ahead, Shadow. Welcome. Good evening.
Hey, what's up? How y'all doing?
We're good.
Peace.
Hey, y'all talked a lot about a lot of stuff, so I created a little playlist that I'm gonna put in the back chat, and then cut and paste it right quick. Hey, y'all just go over that. It goes over white slavery, and you was talking about Shanghai.
Sir.
What happened was I had a old playlist, and I guess they deleted it from YouTube. It was these old scholars talking about white slavery and how the institution of slavery with white people continued throughout generations and generations with the transatlantic slave trade. But what happened is that when the slavery was outlawed, they were still kidnapping people. So it was Shanghai, Spirit Away, when people would be like going on vacations and voyages and things of that nature, they were being kidnapped unknowingly until they get out at sea. You know, they go to another port. That's happening right now in China, so to speak. Also, Right Cargo, it's this guy talking about that in the playlist, and how white people used to mean Muslim. Because a lot of people forget during the Crusades, what stopped the Crusades was the discovery of, quote unquote, discovery of the New World. So they brought those white slaves that they captured over here to work. So the term white used to mean Muslim. Also, when you think about how can we come out of what's the next step, I should say, I put a link in there about Hawaii. And Hawaii is a country unto itself. They're pretty much in the same boat where we at. The only difference is that they have a whole island and they recognized by the United Nations, but they can't get their shit together. Period. You know, and through propaganda, they are classified as the 50th state, but they're not a state at all. Even President Clinton wrote an apology letter about that. So that's in the documentary as well. Also, with that, it's a lawyer having a discussion. It's a separate link, but it's on in the playlist discussing their next steps or how they could get their country back. And if you look at the date and you look at where they're at now, you're like, really? So the real next step is about building your house. So your tribe is your family. You know what I'm saying? Your house is your clan. So home economics, you know what I'm saying? You get everybody in your family pitch in $20, and that $20 could go to whatever the case may be, you know, form a network within your family and stuff. So you got to basically unite your family. You got to deal with your thieving uncles. You got to deal with all those types of people. And then if they have Native American or American Indian in their documents or any form, you use that to your advantage. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. I look at it like this. We got to change the way the game is being played. If the Africans come over here in America and they send their money home, so if you do your DNA, quote unquote, and you believe it, if you African then you should be supporting your country. So you flip the script. If you're Native American, you got to start reaching out to your tribes. You know what I'm saying? Because if we have that economic power that we believe we have, then that economic power can help raise up the Native nations that's already established here. If you Choctaw, if you Blackfoot, it's all about bringing the truth forth and find some way of acceptance, because nobody's just going to let you in anywhere. If you say you Congo, you just can't go over there and just say, I live here. They look at you like you're crazy. The same way you just can't roll up into a tribe nation and stake your claim on their land. Like, who the hell is you? So with that being said, we have to form a tribe outside of both paradigms and unite within ourselves. And that's just basically like the mafia did it. You know what I'm saying? The church, they do it through tithes. Any way to get your family together. And I have one more thing and I'm going to be out. I'm going to cut and paste this. And I want y'all to do a search because I want to test my algorithm. And just tell me what you think. I'm going to put it in the back chat. Let's see what comes up. Is the out of Africa theory a theory or a hypothesis? I get a hypothesis every time I do a search. And then they say debunk and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to make an argument about this without testing my algorithm, see if there's some bias. And there you go. And that's it. Peace.
Thank you so kindly.
Hey, I appreciate your comments, brother. It's Sister Freedom. I'm about to cut out, about to go fix me some vittles.
Okay, I do understand. We appreciate you as always, Rod. You know, you
Thank you,
always
sweetie.
come over here and you know, fill our heads with this knowledge because we need to. But I don't understand, Rod, and all that you said and all of many of y'all have taught us now. Why would they think that if we were actually from Africa, we would be ashamed of it?
They don't know us.
Fact.
That's how that go back to knowing your tribe, knowing your people. They don't know us. Cause if I was African, I'd be running around talking about I'm African, and I have a tattoo of a spear and a shield on my motherfucking chest.
You would even know it though. You would know
I,
it through stories and
you would you would know if you was African, just
yeah,
like you know if you were from over here.
right. You would know it.
Yeah, but they don't want to give credit to your sense of knowing.
Can I
Your
ask
Absolutely.
sense of knowing is not acceptable in academia, therefore that don't count to them.
hey boss, I
No
wanted to
matter
take
how
the
many
question.
receipts you use to prove your point.
Who was next to ask? Because
I, wa-
Rod's great.
I wanted to take on a brother question before he leaves. So are black people free? Anybody can answer that. If you say yes, please tell us why. If you say no, please tell us why. Are
What?
black people free in the Americas?
Ain't nobody free in America because we all wage slaves under the corporation's legal fiction.
So that means that since the abolition of slavery, you don't agree that we are free. So no improvement has been made by default.
What?
So has there been any difference? Has there
What are you including as improvement though? This
But
I don't know
process.
what he's talking about.
yeah,
Let's not make.
yeah, Zena, speak a little bit louder and a little bit not so fast. We can understand.
You got it, Dots. I'm putting back on mute.
Go ahead, Zena. He didn't understand your last point.
say yes, please tell us why. If you say no, please tell us why.
I said no, ain't nobody free in America because we all slaves under the corporate system, based on the laws of a system.
So will you compare the level of freeness compared to slavery back then, before the abolition of slavery?
We was in hostile war at that time. The times now and the times then does not equitably compare. Circumstances was different then than they are now. The circumstance now was the derivative of those circumstances, which is a continuation of the slave system transferred from private ownership to government.
Does anyone agree with that? That blacks are not free at all?
Ain't
I agree.
nobody free.
The state
That would
own your
mean that
kids.
all the work our ancestors put in, now we are not appreciating that. We are still saying that we are as worse as we were before the abolition of slavery. I just
We are.
want that for the record.
That's absolutely correct. We worse right now than we was for the abolition of slavery because most of us had our own shit.
Does all the sisters on the panel be honest?
Where you going with this? I mean,
I'm just trying to know our
look, during the so-called slave era of the false narrative of the slave system, niggas was fucked up. In 2024, niggas is fucked up. The degree of fucked up depend on which nigga is fucked up at the time.
It sounds like he's trying to convince us that we should be satisfied with what we got now. Just shut up.
So basically, the lifestyle that we
That's
have
my
before the
sentiment I get.
That's what I'm getting to. Like the nigga, the struggle real.
Yeah,
You ought to be
let's
happy.
fast
You ought to be
forward
happy.
real
Master
fast.
gave you a cookie today.
Yeah,
Master ain't
you
have to give you no cookie.
You ain't got to
Man,
paint no.
fuck Master and his cookie. I want my whole farm back.
Exactly.
I'm just
Don't paint no cute picture.
Hey, Sister Freedom, that's a wrap for me, sweetie. I gotta go now.
All right, bro. Be good.
All right,
Take
peace.
care.
Peace.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, y'all. I mean, that's how
Did
much.
you enjoy the conversation in the chat? We appreciate. Hey, Marcus, I haven't even seen you pop up. And that's his point of view. That's how he that's his expression, right? That's his paradigm. It doesn't have to be an either or. You know, we always have a diverse group of guests and opinions, and we're having the conversation. You know, you eat the meat, spit the bone, right? Take what works for you and keep it moving. If it don't work for you, then it don't work for you. But it definitely is not an either or. Now, Zena, one last time, what was your question to us before we hang up? Because we're getting ready to end this. What were you asking everybody?
I was asking, are black people free? Is that the question that you ask when you look at when you open the headline of this discussion? You ask the question, are black people free?
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
just asking the entire opinion. Are black people free, or are we still as worse as we were doing slavery? And the brother said that we are. So what's the platform takes on that?
What?
Okay, so share my screen, Freedom. I'll answer this real quickly.
Okay.
Share my screen.
Okay.
I just real quickly, I put in the definition of free. First thing came up was free will. But anyway, y'all see what this says, right? Okay, so as a noun, free will, power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate, the ability to act at one's own discretion. So I'll ask you, Zena, do you have any constraints on your life? Or do you act totally out of your free will, whatever it is that you want to do? Or are there constraints put upon you based on the nation that you're living in now, which is the United States of America?
I think I do have free wills.
Yes. And are there constraints? Are there constraints on your daily life? Do you follow the rules that you follow, right? In this society, for example, that now that you live in the United States, right? Did you make those rules, or do you follow them because you have to follow them?
That part.
The rules are consensus. Those are rules that everyone agree upon. So by default, I follow those rules, even if I do not agree. But those rules are based on majority.
Right. No, that's not how those rules was enacted. It was not based on majority. It wasn't based on majority of the citizens that were alive at the time had the freedom or wherewithal to make those laws. So you're wrong with that piece, right? So that's why I'm sticking to 20. So for right now, the rules that you follow, did Zena make those rules, or is Zena following the rules? Did you make the rules, Zena? Did anybody come and ask you whether or not you consent to the laws that you follow in this land?
Majoritively, I would say yes. Majority of the rules, I say yes. I do consent to those rules.
I didn't ask if you agree. That was not. I did not ask you if you agreed with them. I didn't ask you that. And whether or not you consent to it, you have no choice. If you choose to not consent to one of the laws, what will happen to you, Zena?
You will be prosecuted.
Okay. So do you have free? Are you free?
Yes, I'm free.
Do you understand? So that's when you ask that question, it's not as simplistic as, because I don't see freedom per se the same as progression or progress. Two different things. And so if you are following laws and statutes, right, of the land that you now live in, so we're here in America, for example, and you did not give consent to those laws or statutes, but you are required to follow them.
Right.
You pay taxes, right? You are a truck driver, for example, so there's certain precepts and rules and laws that you have to follow, right, to keep your license, to be a truck driver. Those are not anything that you wrote, agreed to, consent, but you have to follow them, because if you don't follow them, right, like you said, there's repercussions. So you tell me if that is freedom. So that's how I'll answer your question.
I think you're trying to filibuster the question.
Oh, okay.
The question is very simple. Do you agree that blacks are better now than they were back then before slavery?
Why are you
Are we
asking
free?
crazy
No, yes.
questions? Come on.
No, you asked the question on the platform. Go look at the headline of this discussion.
Share.
The headline of this discussion says, "Are black people free?"
Swore hit
So
How far before slavery? Because you talking about before they took our stuff, I might say way back then.
Okay, when you ask the question, "Are black people free?" What do you mean when you ask that question? Because that's the headline of this discussion. I'm just asking based on what you wrote. What do you mean?
Sorry, I already gave my answer.
Is it better now than it was then? Is that what you're saying? Prior to when? What time are you asking? Is it better then?
But that's called progress, right? That's called progression. That's different than freedom. And just to answer, I just went to the definition of free, and free will popped up, and I just, I know we have conversations about free will. It's a very interesting concept. I don't necessarily think that progress, right, equates to 100% freedom, right? And we also know that there are differences, right, in how humans are treated based on lookership. So those are all facts. So, that's a subjective question, but based on the definition, I can't say that we are. Absolutely. Just based on what I just pulled up.
Yeah, but I would say no to both. Even so, the free and the progression. Because they still killing us. They still hanging us from trees. Getting away with it.
It's still doing stuff. And plus, we had Wall Street Black Wall Street back then, and now we don't have hardly any black businesses. I mean, but
digression.
I always say, yeah, it is black businesses, but you just don't see it the same way.
Regression, rather.
Yeah.
So have we made any progress?
Regression.
Have we regressed instead of making progress?
Yep, because the kids getting dumber. They think they smart with their phone. They don't even know how to use their own phones.
So in other words,
you can't critically think. It's, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you.
They go back to the sword. What's good, sword?
What's going on? What's going on, ladies? Hey, I ain't even
ask you a question, Sword. That's why I asked you to come up here.
Oh, peace,
Sword,
peace.
How you doing? I went to school. I went to school early. Wait a minute, Z. Let me get this question out, please. I went to school, and in my schools in Atlantic City and in Delaware, and there was no Africans in my schools. None. Not a one that I can remember. Okay. And I think it would have stood out enough for me to remember from all the way back from 69 all the way up until I graduated from high school, right? I asked my mom, was there any Africans in her that she can remember in her schooling? My mom said, you know what? No, not a one. Now, my mom's older than me. So I asked my auntie, which would have been, older than my mom, no Africans. Is that odd or puzzling to you, Sword, that these people in these different places, even in Virginia, because some of them lived in Virginia, because my family came from King William County. No Africans that they go to school with. Why is our people still saying that they were African? Why is that, Sword?
Cause Zena. It's all Zena fault.
See.
I'm just saying.
Leave our African alone.
Sheree, I didn't even realize you were still on the panel.
Leave our African brother alone.
I know I
Ain't
got a
that
little quiet.
Sheree, but I'm just saying, if it was so many, where were they at? Where they go at? They
Well, here
should I don't get it.
in Atlanta, they put all the Africans in the same school. That was their way of assimilating them into the culture. So they all lived in one side of the town. They all went to the same school. It was a high school called Clarkston, and they put all the. So you had a bunch of.
What year was this though? What year was this?
Shit, my brother went there in the 90s. I
What are you
graduated.
talking about 90s.
And I went there. Oh, I didn't go to Clarkston, but I went to the school about, I probably say a good 10 miles away from there. And
I'm sorry, but what I'm trying to say, because the reason why I asked this was because to me, Africans started coming over when they were allowed to. Like
right.
In America, I'm not saying that they didn't come over on a ship and go to Jamaica. I'm not saying they didn't come over on a ship and go to Guyana. I'm not going to say the West Indies, but I'm talking about over here in America. I think what happened, maybe a few here and there came over, actually probably from Jamaica or something. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, I think that Africans started coming over on these parts, like, I don't know, like you said, the 90s.
No,
it was very recent.
Much earlier than that, though. No.
I mean, that they would be recognized, guys. I'm talking about where it would have been noticed.
Yeah, it's a much larger population now.
I want you to ask the older people in your family, did they go to school with any of them? And you live in New York, where they really would have been.
Now, my elders didn't go to school with no Africans.
No Africans. I'm sorry, I didn't.
I think it depends by the region, because in New York, they, absolutely, there definitely was. At least when I grew up, he definitely was. But they were.
He didn't go to school with not one African, not one.
Right.
I asked Netta myself.
No, well, I don't know about sign, but I can tell you, I definitely did. However, they kept themselves separate for the most part. You know what I mean? It was a distinction that was drawn. It wasn't like, oh, you're my long lost.
Because white and black weren't going to the same schools. So what schools was they going to?
You had asked whether or not we had went to school with any Africans, and I'm telling you, I did.
You did. You did. You did. What school? Your college or when you was little?
Well, my high school. High school primarily. I went to a Catholic elementary school, but high school was public. In Harlem, yeah, absolutely.
Didn't you date an African, Doc? I thought I saw.
Never.
Yeah, it's still my argument that Africans
Never.
way later.
No disrespect to anybody. I don't mean that. As far as it came out, that's my captivity.
Hey, girly girl.
But no, Guys ain't never. No, sorry, I have never dated anyone.
Do do you know that every time you say something and you say no disrespect by default you're being disrespectful? But
I apologize, Nina. It makes sense.
That's not true, Zena. That's
I
not
don't
That's
have
true at
your
all.
fault.
Zeta ain't
I
playing
don't
with
have
y'all.
I,
That's
I
on my
do
Like
not
a
have
boogie
fault.
that's stuck in somebody's nose.
let me
Stop.
clarify something real quick. I do not have
You
problem.
gotta
I
clarify
have
everything you say.
Hey,
yes
You don't
because
you don't
I do
never
not
know
let
how to say what you mean and mean what you
I
say.
do
I can tell I don't come from your people.
I
Cause
do not
we
let
say what we mean. We ain't gotta clarify everything.
I do not like
I
misconception.
bet you if you played spade, you'll be reneging like a mug. You know what? Let me pick my spade back up. I gotta clarify.
I do not like to be misperceived. So it's important to always clarify this is the internet.
But why can't
Just
you
just
say it
just
right
stop
the
that.
first time?
Because I'm gonna grab your attention. People don't pay attention these days. Just up that mentioned earlier
no,
that
she said you
people in
got
the
a
chat,
strong accent. You
people in the
got to talk
chat
a
be
little
talking.
slower,
I
honey.
don't know what they be talking about me. I don't read a chat, but I can guarantee that most of the guys that try to talk trash about me in the chat in the chat, I know
Really,
both
girl,
African
is
history. No,
great.
real quick, I know both African history and I know American history more than them.
Oh
See
really?
that's how unfortunate it is. Most of the guys that keep trying to talk trash in
You're
the
right.
chat,
You might
I
know
can
his
guarantee I know better
story.
than
So
I know
go
their
down
history more
so
than them.
go down the
Just for
coast of
We know why
Africa.
you know it.
just for the
Oh
record,
good.
I can guarantee I know the history more than most of those
You ain't
guys
showed
that
one
talk
record
trash.
since you've been up here. What you talking about? Just for the record. That's an American saying.
But
See,
Zena,
you
we
always
appreciate you
Is
because you
African
got.
American on your ID, Zena?
I just want to clarify that because you can be making fun of somebody who know better than your history, who know your
But
history
you
better than
just
you.
don't though.
That's
You
that's
don't though, Zena.
Is
You
that's when
don't.
African American on your
that's when people
ID?
say I can be
Nah,
condescending
it
because I
say
tell
black.
people the truth.
That
I do
shit
not
say
talk.
white.
You cannot make fun of somebody who know your history better than you do. You
Excuse
should
me
go
for
You
study
you
cursing.
enough
Oh,
to
what
make
you
fun of somebody.
talking
you
about,
know
Zena? Come
you
on,
know my
man.
history better than me, Zena.
Well, you always read backwards. Why would I even tell you that?
Okay, so
Ooh.
where was my second great grandfather born?
You will not even comprehend that if I tell you that because you read backwards. You gotta go reevaluate your level of comprehension in order for me to
Okay,
explain
You
something
right
to you
back to
in
put your
detail.
earphone in.
so where was my second great grandfather born?
How the hell would I tell you? Well, is your great great grandfather part of the more profound history? When we talk about history, we talk about main events, not individual stuff. So by
That's the
default,
main.
the question that
That's a main event in my family.
come
You
on, stop,
said
stop.
you know my history better than me. So
That,
okay,
the,
maybe
the chat the chat do understand what I said when I say that.
do you need to
When you say
clarify?
when you say you know my history more than I do, I would not ask you if you know my grandma. You see, you just proving my point.
Nobody said that they did though.
No,
Do you know
I'm
your
throwing
grandma?
shots. I'm throwing shots at those that talk trash about me in the chat. That they're talking trash about me, even though I can educate them on their own history. So that's an insult.
Ooh, no,
Okay.
you're gonna
Let
It
they,
Wait,
let
he
they go
talking about the
upgrade.
chat.
Let they go
yeah.
upgrade their
I told
intellect.
you I'm gonna leave.
well
I'm gonna
Zena,
leave Zena alone.
Zena, I was talking trash about you in the chat, and I came up here to talk trash to you in your face.
No, for you,
So
Oh, wait, hold on.
for you, I'm not gonna be mad at
What
you.
the hell is going on?
I'm not. Yo,
this the
hold on,
after party. This
hold on, real
BET
Okay,
quick.
after dark,
Y'all hold on,
uncut.
real quick.
turn all the way
For
up.
you,
What is happening?
bro. For
I'm
you,
gonna
I'm
go
not
ahead
gonna be
and
mad at you. Why would I take somebody serious who
I
read
don't know
backwards?
where Anton is. I'm mad now.
Why would I
He
take
gonna let
anybody
Sword do
serious
this by
who read
himself.
backwards?
Who
Yo,
read
Yeah,
backwards?
yeah. You sound like somebody who read
Ain't
backwards,
it?
so I can take you serious.
Ain't that what they? Who read backwards?
You
First
sound
of
like
all,
somebody who read backwards.
when did Africans learn how to read?
We invented reading.
Y'all
The
invented
reading you
reading,
read
but
today,
y'all ain't
the
Oh.
got
read
no books.
the reading you read today. Do you know where that originated from? Those letters to be reading. Your
What
name. Do you know
letters?
who came out with those letters?
No, yeah. Tell me who. The
Oh,
name.
you
Come on,
say
Give
that.
me the
How can
name.
you prove that?
let
How
not
can
do
you
that.
prove that?
Let
Give
not
me
I
the
do
want to
that.
know
name.
how you can prove that.
You said
Everything
who?
came from Africa, writing, reading. How
Oh,
can you prove that when people are
now,
all
now I
over the
can prove that.
world?
Go study where writing came from. The origins
No,
of
you
No,
writing
go
no,
never
back
came
no,
from
to
no.
letters.
You
somebody
said
else
you was gonna
told
tell us who. That means a person. Who? Tell us who.
They came from African, bro.
No, who?
Africans. Oh, you said
Who?
who?
Yeah, who?
I'm, I'm getting the perspective of the person that came invented already.
Yeah, tell me who. Who created
You want me
right?
to spoon? You want me to spoon feed you? I don't like to
Yeah,
spoon feed
school
you.
me, school
I
me.
gave you
I
I gave
don't
you
know
a
nothing.
broader idea of how writing came to being. It was an African that
No,
came up with
you
that.
said
It
you said
originated
you
from
was gonna
Africa.
you said you was gonna
So if
tell
you
us
tell me that
who. That
African
means
don't
you know
read,
that. That means you know the name.
If you say Africans don't read, I can somebody that read who invented writing, who teach. Come on,
Can
bro.
you tell us who?
Let's be serious now. I just gave you the
Can
source.
Can you tell us
African
who?
originated writing. Education came from Africa, bro. You don't know that?
Education came from Africa.
It's not even your fault that you don't know that. Because that's not a
Education came
history.
from Africa.
Bro, it's not your fault that you do not know that. That's not a history. You don't even know your own history. How would I expect you to know
Education
about
came
African
from Africa. Are you sure you understand on that? I'm gonna repeat it so you can hear what you're saying. Education came from Africa.
the ideas of writing?
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
They
So
came
let
from
me tell you what you're saying right now. You
Okay, go ahead.
saying that you taught the white man how to live. He took what you taught him, came back and conquered you, and brought you to America, and built a civilization in America that's better than the civilization you got over there.
Now that's a headshot,
Let
Zena.
me
That
tell you
was a
something.
headshot.
Gave me any written document of the white man.
Zena,
Gave me any.
are you
Hold on.
serious?
I'm
No,
serious.
don't move the goalpost. I'm gonna say this again so that way you can hear it. So
Let's go ahead.
if Africa is the mother of all, y'all taught the white man how to do whatever he did to come back to you, colonize you, pick you up, bring you across the water, and build a more luxurious civilization in America than what y'all got in Africa. Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense to people who read backwards for people who do not understand the history. That's all. I mean, the history of
I
Africans.
know that shit don't
The
make sense,
history.
Zena. I know it's all good. That
I
shit
agree.
don't make sense.
It is.
It wouldn't make sense to me either, Zena. There's no way that I could think that I taught somebody something and they used the shit against me and then took me somewhere else and built something more luxurious.
That's a logical assumption.
Lord,
But
Lord,
Yeah, he ain't answering that
my
question.
God,
No,
my
I want
He
to
God.
keeps saying you. I know right. He keeps saying I know your history. What are you doing?
Think about the logic of that.
Let me
That's all I
provide a
need.
better context.
Think about the logic of that. You know one of the simplest things Chief said, shout out to Chief, man. He said, how y'all create silverware? Y'all ain't got no spoons.
Okay.
So how did the white people get spoons if y'all eat with y'all hands?
Hey, you better.
And I ain't knocking
Get it,
I ain't knocking eating hands because I
I
indulge. Yes, ma'am.
Swore, listen, check this
I
out.
love this.
How is
Let
Africa?
me provide
Wait a
little bit
minute,
context.
wait a minute, Zena. How is Africa the motherland? Because remember that name did come from the enemy as well. But y'all keep needing, because we should be needing y'all things from y'all over in Africa. How is it that y'all keep needing everything from her sister? I'm gonna say America's Africa's sister. I'm even gonna give her that.
Girl, we cousins.
We cousins.
All right. Let me
Why she keep coming to her big
let me
sister?
answer that question.
Her big
Distant,
sister.
very
We supposed to,
distant.
but wait a minute, Rick, supposed to be we supposed to be, if that's the motherland and that's before here, right? Why they keep needing stuff from us? Copying off us, the way we dance, sing.
I don't know
We ain't singing none of your songs. Y'all trying to sing all our songs, trying to wear clothes like we do, trying to do your hairdos like we do. Everything. I ain't being funny, being smart. I'm just trying to figure out how.
He need to clarify, Sister Freedom. He need to clarify.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
Let me
sorry.
put your question in a better perspective. You always ask these type of questions. The idea of somebody
Because she
needing
never get
something.
an answer. That's why.
No, so many questions is just too basic to the extent it's a waste of time answering such a question, if I'll be honest.
So you recreate the question and then answer a tougher question, and the answer still ain't good enough.
No, but Zena, you did start. Zena, you did start out. It's not a simple question, or because you said that you can teach us about who we are. So she's asking you a question, and since you are the African who can teach us who we are, you should be able to answer that. And then I want answer Sword's question because he was spot on. We still
Okay,
waiting for a name.
Let me answer your question first. He said, how can we do all that and still have the Europeans go and bring us to the Americas and enslave us and this and that? Can you provide any document? I'm just paraphrasing the question.
That's not, you can't paraphrase because I didn't ask that question.
No, I'm talking about the brother. I'm talking about the brother. The brother asked the question first. Why did we do all that and still get used by the white man?
No. Don't do all that. No, I'm gonna restate it for you. Y'all taught the white man everything he know, and then he turned around and used everything he learned from you on you, brought you to America, and used you to build a civilization better than what you have in your own landmass. How does that make sense?
All right, can I answer?
Sure.
It makes sense if you study history. It only doesn't make sense to people who are ignorant of war history or of African history in general. Because common sense will tell you that you can teach somebody something, and what you taught them can be used to override you. Common sense will tell you that. Nobody who studied history and know all the intricacies involved doing African history in connection to the Greek will ask such a very, I don't want to say silly, but such a very narrow-minded question. Go study a little bit, you get a better idea.
But the problem with that, Zena, is we have shit here in America that y'all don't have over there.
I agree with that.
Okay, so that means so if y'all taught the so if you taught the white man, that means you didn't teach him everything. That means somebody else built the shit over here.
Well, Sword, you know they keep saying, well, we got gold and we got oil, we got this, we got that, but did nothing with it. That's what I'm saying. They brag about all the stuff that they have. No disrespect, Zena. Please do not take it that way.
I do not do disrespect that based on your
I say disrespect.
I'm trying to say no disrespect because I don't want you. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, Zena. I do hear a lot of bragging that you know what I'm saying. But I don't understand how y'all had all of this. But America can supposedly steal all your stuff, but they can do something with it. How y'all got all the stuff but ain't got no money? I don't get it.
The top lawyers in Europe, particularly England in the 1700s, they told us where the gold came from. It came from America. And the damn gold come from Africa. That shit came from America.
I think some of the questions you guys be asking, if you can study a little bit, you'll not ask these questions. Then you will know how ignorant these questions sound when you ask these questions.
Why you saying they sound ignorant? No, the problem is you can't answer them. You can't answer it.
I can answer them.
You can't because the word ignorant could be given in such a negative way. Because you sound ignorant, actually, Zena. I told you that. You said to me because I said, wait a minute, you didn't want to hear my definition of why I said that I'm probably African descent. Because I'm even giving it to the fact that maybe somebody in my family, could have had sex with somebody that was African. That's why I said that. Because I'm not just going to deny people. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying to you, you can understand. You're going to say, well, that makes you African. No, it doesn't. I'm just saying that maybe somebody African, I don't know who. I really actually, I don't know who. I don't know, I don't.
And that's real quick.
And we don't have the same reasons why I would say that. Not when I went all the way back to the 1600s and my people still here. I'm just trying not to be mean. I'm just trying not to be mean.
But Sister Freedom, more than half that people that came from Africa over here, they were actually European blood.
Yeah,
they weren't even African.
I understand you. But I think what happened was they, like Dot said, look how many that Dot's grown up that maybe made it over to America in a 300-year span.
Right.
That's why we don't see them like that, because it was so small.
Actually,
Mhm.
over a little over
Hey,
400 years.
400
Doc,
years. Yeah.
Doc mentioned something earlier. She said that I'm not yet claiming that I know American history more than every American. It would be very ignorant of me to say that.
You
I'm
did
saying
say that. You
some.
told
No,
Sword that a
no,
couple seasons ago.
I was referring to the chart. I said some. It's obvious that they are American that know the history. Why would I be? I'm not that ignorant or arrogant to say that. There are even Africans that know African history more than me. There are even Americans that know African history more than me, like Jabari. Jabari is
Every American on this
well
stage
abreast.
know American history better than you, brother.
So you really want to do that?
Zena, when you were in Liberia, let's press the reset button because
Sure.
you are part of Unscrambled Minds growing community, right? You know how we do over here on this show, right? I always say it's like a gentle hazing. It is what it is, right? It's testing the armor, right? Like are you gonna hold or you gonna fold type thing, right? So really and truly, maybe it does come across as disrespectful. You may take it as, but that's not the intent,
No,
right?
it's
We
not.
just, we just standing on our square with certain things. But you mentioned something about, about bringing schools over and writing over. Can you just tell me two questions? Number one, when you were in school in Liberia, what was the curriculum on the slave trade? Did they teach you guys about the slave trade? And if so, what was it? And please be honest, Dean.
Yeah, we learn about the slave trade. We learn
And
how
what
the
did you
slave trade
learn?
started. We learn how, like the example was the transatlantic. We learn about the Middle Passage. We learn about some of the events in America here, how people was being treated. We learn about how
In
the
our
Bible
books, they
religion
got
came
in
came to
American books, he learned
came
this.
to become something illegal. We learn about how the Christianity entered into Africa as well as Islam. We learn about Egypt. We learn about Aristotle. We learn about all those scholars. We learn those things. So
In
that's
our
why
books,
that's why that's why when you go to school in Liberia, when you come here to the U.S., the American school system and the Liberian school system is equivalent. I didn't go to school in the U.S. I went to school
Because
back
it's an
home.
American colony. We already talked
Yeah, I was
about
about to say
the
that.
reason for
I'm
that.
just using
It
America
was
as an
an
example.
American colony, so we understand the American influence.
Yeah,
That's why I'm
that's true.
asking you these specific questions. Because in Africa, that's very unique because my best friend who's Ghanaian or what have you, and the Africans that I know personally, the slave trade is not taught in their curriculum.
there's an echo. I'm
It
sorry.
just is not, right? And my second question though was what was because
The
you
echo. I
mentioned
don't know where it's
that
coming
Africa
from.
brought schools over and to the Americas. So what was the written language called? The written language that was that Africans brought over to the Americas and that we have today, that we can see that their connection. What is the name of the writing system, the African writing system?
Alaikum.
Or even the language. You can even speak to that.
Do you hear echo dots? I try to put everybody on mute so I can hear where it's coming from. I can't.
Not sure.
Before slavery, Africans and other traders that went to Africa to trade, they communicated via the language called Pidgin, P-I-D-G-I-N. It was a language that they used to converse doing trade, and that language it gave rise to the language called Gola, the Gulleh. Gola is the language. Gola has an influence from the Pidgin language that came to America later on. That people from that language settled in Florida, in Georgia, in South Carolina, and they went back to Africa. You remember a couple of weeks ago, Brother Chief Top Cat, he said that the Gola language originated from Americas, but he didn't tell you where it started from. That was before slavery. That was around 300 AD. There was no slave at that time. It was just used for trade between the traders that went to West Africa to trade. It started with Pidgin, P-I-D-G-I-N. It gave rise to Gola. It came to the U.S. there were other languages that Africans used to communicate about themselves. Like for example, Twi, that's from Ghana. Or Liberia got a language called Gola, Gola. They got a Mandingo. They got a Va. Even Va came to America as well.
You mentioned you mentioned Pidgin, right? You said Pidgin?
No, Pidgin, yeah, Pidgin, P-I-D-G-I-N.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, let's start with that. Freedom, share my screen.
Okay, here I come.
That's what the language that was used between Africans and those that came to do trade with Africa.
Here we go.
Let her talk.
So I'm trying to, because we're talking about things that are indigenous, right? Or that's native to Africa. So I don't know if you guys can see it because I'm not looking at you guys. I'm on your screen. But Pidgin, this is from the Britannica website, right? I just put it in real quickly. Pidgin, originally a language that typically developed out of sporadic and limited contacts between Europeans and non-Europeans in locations other than Europe from the 16th through the early 19th century, and often in association with activities such as trade, plantation, agriculture, and mining. Typical Pidgins function as lingua francas or for intergroup communication, but not as vernaculars. Blah, 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 blah. But let's go to what it says here. Do y'all see what it says here? Pidgins have no native speakers, as the populations that use them during occasional trade contacts maintain their own vernaculars for intergroup communication. Did y'all just hear what I read? So Pidgin is not even, wait, pause. Excuse me. Pidgin is not, but I'm just saying, Pidgin though is not indigenous to Africa. Did y'all get?
It was used between Africans and traders.
Between Europe, right? Between Europeans and non-Europeans. Continue. Let's go down. Pidgin have no native speakers, as the populations that use them during occasional trade contacts maintain. It's similar to like how on this side of the world we talk about speaking Pig Latin, for example, right? So it's similar, but I just wanted to make sure that the Pidgin you talking about is not the Pidgin that we talking about over here, because that's not indigenous to Africa.
It's not indigenous to Africa. It was used because when the settlers go to Africa to trade, they do not understand the native languages. So that was a means of communication between both of them. But besides
so it can't be indigenous, right? So that's why I asked you, what is an original written language that you brought up? So my initial question was, can you tell me an original language or writing system that Africans brought over to the Americas that we use today? Because you said that Africa is what gave America schools, writing systems. That's what you said. So I'm asking you specifically, can you give me an example of one? And then the first thing you mentioned was Pidgin. So I go, because I know Pidgin and I know the origins of Pidgin language, right? I understand. And it's sort of like in Jamaica, how they may speak patois, or in Haiti, even though their native language is French, they speak a dialect of Creole. So I get it, right? So I just wanted to just, show everybody this, just to make sure that this is not the Pidgin language you're talking about, because this did not come from Africa.
Contradiction to what I said, it was a language between Africans, and then it gave rise to Gula, Gulleh, that came to the U.S. The language Gula was developed in the U.S. It originated from Africa and it was developed in the U.S. And also, when you study the African American heritage, you will know that there are languages. Yeah, Gulleh.
I'm gonna leave you alone, Zena. I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm gonna hang back. I'm gonna chill. Okay. What's up? Who is this? Hawkeye? Who's this? No, Baltimore. What's up? Welcome to the show. Hey, Hawkeye.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Peace.
Well, what it is?
I'm gonna let you breathe, Zena. I'm gonna let you breathe. I'm gonna chill out.
When you ask a question, let me clarify the question so other people can understand what the point I'm trying to make. But y'all can go ahead.
Okay, Hawkeye or Baltimore. I'm not sure who was up first.
Oh,
yeah, Baltimore.
How everybody doing? I just think that I know for a fact we are Moors, and I think that need to be established. And as far as the research, I actually have a like an actual link that actually talk about it. In 1613, its description was faithfully reproduced by the six. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish with this single alteration, and the original text was again transcribed in 1730. Abbot Samuel Gaschet. And I'm from Baltimore. The whole city is filled with Moorish signs from the black Europeans that ran it. And I think that a lot of black people in America, if they do their research, is going to go back to that. And if you want to know your second, third, fourth, and fifth great grandfathers, all you got to do is go to family tree. If you got obituaries, it's going to be easy to know. I'm first cousin 7 times removed with Al Gore. Our common ancestor is Henry Gore. My seventh great grandfather is his fifth great grandfather. We related through slavery. My fifth great grandfather name was George Washington Gore from Madison, Boone County. My fifth great grandmother name was Mary Gore. They had 13 children together. I think the Gore family forced him to marry a lady named Adeline Canterbury. But yeah, like I know up to at least my eighth great grandfathers on my mother and father's side somewhat. So
That's beautiful. I love when y'all shout out your surnames. I always get emotional about that. I'm sorry, Stuart. Go ahead. You got it.
yeah, but from the research I've been doing, it's just a big crazy melting pot. And I have a rich Moorish ancestor named Domingo Maderas. Hold on, I gotta go to family tree, but he came to America rich. The company of London actually gave him 1,600 acres of land, and he had a bunch of indentured servitude, no African slaves, a bunch of whites from Germany, I think, and Russia. They came here poor with no last names until they married into the Indian families or the Moorish families. I really don't see how people trying to like separate Indians from Moors. That's like trying to take rain from water. Like, I don't know what the fuck going on.
I'm
But I was
glad you
just
said that.
telling y'all that like shit is crazy. Like I don't understand. Especially if you're from a place that's part of the 13 colonies, it's impossible. It's impossible.
I'll be honest, Baltimore, for me, I really don't understand, but like I like to stay in the lanes that I kind of get, you know what I'm saying? I don't like
Right.
staying in people's lanes. So when it comes to like that whole more like paradigm ideology, I really don't understand it. So
Right.
I just sit back and I listen and I eat the
Hmm.
spit the bone, right? And
Right.
I sort it out as much as it makes sense. So
Right. Like I be listening to Raw Hayes. He always talking lost at sea. And that directly ties in with Moors because money is based off of oceanic terms. Currency, current of the sea, drowning in debt, loan shark. So if you don't know etymology, it's really hard to argue. But I say that to say, like a moor is part of a boat. Like what is it called? The mooring poles. If your boat is tied to the mooring poles, you can't be lost at sea. I never hear nobody say that. Everybody always going back to Africa. It was Moors in ancient Lemuria. Like it was Moors way before this African shit. Africa not even a real name. That's the colonizer name. So when motherfuckers talk about the Moors and the first thing they do is go back to Africa, it's like I
that's
don't even
right.
know. I don't even know how to talk. Bro. I don't even know what to say to that. Like that's some Google bullshit. I don't even research with Google. I gotta use DuckDuckGo and Pinterest. To me personally, Pinterest is one of the best things to fact check with. You feel me? And as far as the Olmecs and Mayans, the real name is the Ziamaru. That was what they called each other. Amaru Z Ziamaru. If you call it Olmecs and Mayans, you basically saying Abu Bakr came over here and traded with them in the 1300s. And I believe that. But before he came, they was called the Ziamaru. Once they started like in the meshing and shit, that's when the Olmecs and Mayans came. Or as far as the name of it. And y'all
Mhm.
can look this up for yourselves. What they call Ziamaru, people with a sun.
And now that you mentioned Abu Bakr, that
Damn.
was during the Madian Empire. The Madian Empire after the Ghanaian Empire. That have lasted at least for up to 1,000 years. The Abu Bakr Empire you just mentioned, that started around, I think, 1,000 or 1,000 to, I think, 13 to 1,600.
That's true.
So the whole West Africa that Sixer that mentioned earlier about the Dalits, there's a place that has more than 2,000 Dalits. 2,000, at least
But it
2,000
was
of them.
royals over here already, bro. You making it
And
seem like they was the only rich ones. He came over here to trade with them because corn is ancient to Mexico. That's what they came over here to trade. You feel me? But
I'm not disputing that though.
yeah, and I'm not disputing what you're saying, but you making it seem like they bought that agriculture here when they came over here to trade. That was facts, but we was already royal here as well.
But the point I'm trying to make is that the Ghanaian Empire started around 300 CE, 300 CE up to 1,000 years. So who know as to what people from the Ghanaian Empire did not come here prior to that?
Wait,
Nobody
Abu
knows that.
Bakr, Zena, you said Abu Bakr. Are you talking about the convert to Islam? The one that, are you talking about him?
I'll tell you what thing, I thought you were mentioning
Who are you
dude
talking
that
about?
came from the
He talk about that rich ass motherfucker from like the
Massa
1300s.
Massa Musa, the guy that came from Mali.
Oh,
The
not
Malian
Mansa
Empire.
Musa. All right, I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm gonna be
It was
quiet.
the
I'm gonna
Malian
let you
Empire.
breathe. I'm gonna let you breathe.
So that area you are asking about,
You mentioned
if
Mansa
there's a
Musa,
written
y'all.
language that came to the Americas, we got more than at least 2,000 languages right in that area. And every local dialect have their form of writing. So no language was distinctive to the whole group of people. And the Ghanaian Empire have existed from 300 CE to 1,000 CE. That was before Mansa Musa. So why can we not even drastically think that during the Ghanaian Empire, people may have came from the Ghanaian Empire to come to the Americas before Mansa Musa? Everybody started the history of Mansa Musa as if to say that's the origin of African traveling. People will not do that because they do not know the history beyond Mansa Musa. Go look at the Ghanaian Empire and tell me if I'm wrong. Where it started. What gave rise to Mansa Musa was the Ghanaian Empire. After Mansa Musa came another empire called the Songhai Empire. There were history over history that can go far back. So if this history existed before Mansa Musa came to the U.S., it is not logical to assume that people from those history that existed within 1,000 years came to America prior to that.
Man, I already heard the Guardian.
I didn't understand what he was saying. Like when you start talking too fast, Zena, it's hard for me to understand respectfully. So I didn't catch like the ending. But you don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to repeat yourself. We have Hawkeye up here. It's going on 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how much longer Freedom want to stay up on here, but I know I'm getting ready to drop down.
I just wanted to ask Baltimore a question real quick. Baltimore, you said that the term Moor derived, they replaced the term Indian with Moor in what year?
I'm about to go back to it for you right now. In 1613, its description was faithfully reproduced. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish. With this single alteration, the original text was transcribed in 1730. The what they be saying? What's the reference? Albert Samuel Gaschet, Gatschet. He said
Okay,
that in
thank you,
1888.
Albert. Yeah, I'm gonna go look that up. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. I've ran into Raw Hayes and Top Cats and them from doing my own research. Like, yo, it gotta be motherfuckers talking about the Black Europeans. And if you ain't come to Baltimore, you can't tell me shit. Because I listen to Bobby Hemmett and them. And he been said that Celtics and Druids was another word for Moor. No, in Baltimore, we got something called the Moorish Tower that's overlooking Druid Hill. Druid Hill, one of the most notorious hoods in Baltimore. You can't make this up. Baltimore's filled the Irish and crazy mythology. As far as like the Catholic churches and all that, I think Maryland was the first state to like bring all the Slavs. Was like, hey, if you want to worship whatever, you can come here without getting hanged. And that's how the Moors got all the white people in America. They came here. I mean, we know that, but that's how all white people got here, from indentured servitude for the most part.
Freedom.
More than all.
Freedom. I mean, she's gonna separate.
And it's just in Europe. From research I've been doing.
That's why she's not pulling you up. I'm sorry, Baltimore.
No, you good. I'm just happy to be listening to y'all.
Yeah, we have to have you.
Well, yeah, like I think in Europe, the Moors, they was taking likings to certain white people and was marrying them and whatever. But I guess as time went on, some of these white people got smart. So the Moors are marrying to the families, but it's like the white people will poison them before the woman get pregnant. So now when a black man dies, all she gotta do is go marry another white man. If you watch Game of Thrones, it make it very easy to understand if you research. That's why I watch Game of Thrones, because this new one they put the black people in with the Moors in it, and it's like okay. And if you listen to the dialect every time the black dude talk, it's always about his ship, stuff like that. Like there's certain shows that really break it down, especially Outlander. Outlander be throwing it right in our face.
Yeah, I,
But
I asked you to repeat that again because I feel like once again it's like when I'm doing my research, see, I'm learning about Moorish history too. I don't really know nothing about that. Like that's not what
that's
I
a big
subscribe
part
to
of
because
all
I've
this.
always been, more privy to us being Indian. So when you read that definition for me again, I just wanted to be very clear because I almost just feel like what is separating um people who want to identify with Indian and Moor is terminology
Right.
and
And if
just
you don't know
terms and
etymology,
ideology as well, right?
right,
And I think it just causes a lot of clash and a lot of confusion that I don't think it really should be causing because I still feel like they all are ultimately at the end of the day misnomers, like
right,
names, titles put on people, like depending on what you look like. In America it was a two-caste society, white and black. So when you look at all of that, like them trying to categorize people, racialize people, whatever, I think that it's really showing its face today when you see
right,
the same people arguing with each other. And we the
right.
same people.
Yeah, that's fact.
Nah, I disagree with that. We not the same people.
Yeah.
So I just
Ooh,
trying to
go old
figure out.
school. I'm
So
talking about us being melanated on this
nah,
landmass,
well,
sir.
melanated
And people
don't
taking
bring.
on ideologies and
That I
believing
know
what they believe.
that's the Pan African ideology. So
Yeah, oh, it's not
when
mine,
you,
but it's an
I know.
ideology.
Now I want to speak to the brother because my folks never said anything about the Moors, so I know this is gonna go into a more educational thing. So when you say that the word Moor was turned into Indian, who were the people that turned the word Moor into Indian back in 1613, and what was the reason why?
Shit, I'm still trying to learn that too, brother. But uh,
I can help you out with that. So what they did was they found an Indian headdress, and they took that Indian headdress back to France, where where the Moors came from, and then
that's
they
one
brought that.
segment of the Moors, though. That's
No,
one
I no,
segment.
I
That's what
know.
people got to
Well,
understand.
hold on. Well, I'm trying to help you out because you didn't know.
I'm
So
listening, bro. I ain't here to
that's
argue.
one sec. Okay, well, since you got that part, then so with the Moors over here, if these people are Moors, why would the Moors come over here and colonize other Moors?
Nigga, it's just like two different blood sets. I'm from Baltimore, you from Jersey. We came to Jersey. Yeah, y'all bloods. We don't give a fuck though. We running every block. Every block we selling dope and coke. And if y'all not listening to us, y'all getting the fuck
Well, don't
around us.
curse Baltimore.
Oh, my
Baltimore.
bad, my bad. I'm sorry, but that's the mindset that the Moors from over there had. And when Christopher Columbus came here, he was looking for holy water. That's what people need to realize. His first voyage, when he got here, he was talking to Indians that claimed they was 150, 200 years old. So when he went back to what Queen Isabella and them, he said, "Yo, they got some water over here that rejuvenate old health." So when they came back, one of the first places they thought it was Florida because of the vast Everglades. So they started punishing all of the Florida. You feel me? That's the secret story to it. He came over here looking for holy water. It ain't had nothing to do with gold and all that and us. That was a plus, but they came over here looking for holy water.
Okay, so you do see how ironic that sound, right? So you have Moors already here.
Right.
You have Moors coming over here,
They was all over the world.
but somehow, right? That's fine. I'm willing to accept that for the sake of this argument. So you got Moors here, you got Moors coming over here. Those are the only two people that's fighting at that time. But you're telling me that the Moors turned the word Moor into Indian. What would be their cause for that?
Bro, I'm not specifically saying that. It's just that I think George, like the motherfuckers here turned them that because they know that like the word Indian is no real culture to that. It's a lot of culture to the word more. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you just said, everybody not the same. Like when King James and them got kicked out of Europe or whatever,
That
they
don't make
got kicked out by
sense.
other black people.
Discussing.
So that's
I
where
agree with
people.
that part.
That's the
The
part
part
that
that
people be getting confused. Where it's like when the colonization start, they think that's where the white people come in. No, it's other black people doing this. You get what I'm saying?
no,
Like the
I
white
agree
people.
with that part. The black folks, I agree with that part.
Well, I'm still listening to you, brother.
Why y'all keep on romancing the word
I just feel
more?
like I got cut off.
No, I'm just
And
when it
that's why you
comes to
gotta understand etymology as well. Like
uh
Why
etymology
you
will let you know.
romancing it like the word Moors wasn't a negative turn in the day? It's a negative. It was negative. It was no different than being called the N word. And it was for a small portion of people, not everybody. Over here in America, y'all keep on saying stuff like, "Oh, Moors is just another way of calling black, saying that you black." Or if that's what you're saying, that's one thing. But you romancing the word more, like you romancing it.
Did y'all ever see the movie with Martin Lawrence when we was kids? What it
That's
was
what
called,
I'm
The
talking
Black
about.
Knight?
It was negative. We already talked about that. I don't know when you came in, but we talked about this earlier. And I'm
Oh,
gonna let you know now. We got 5 more minutes because I already got the red robe out.
oh no, you good. But
the
like
red
the
road.
word more is way deeper than that. They just tie the word
In
more
the
with the
bonnet,
dirty
don't forget the
Moors.
bonnet.
But hold on, because I was trying to make my point. Because Swordfish just came and chopped me down like an axe. Listen,
No,
listen.
ma'am,
The
I
only
wasn't
thing
trying to
that
chop
I was saying is that it's just another term in that people take on ideologies and beliefs and believe in whatever they see fit.
Yeah,
So
just
when a certain belief is tying into this paradigm and what we're talking about, it's important to establish certain things and ask certain questions. Because when I heard that definition, I'm like, okay, so Indian was still the word
All right, so
well,
or
I'm
when
the
it comes
term that
when
was
it
being applied. So that's all I was saying.
yeah,
Not
well,
to
I think that
interrupt, not to, sorry, go ahead,
I'm
Sport.
sorry,
And
I'm
then
sorry, go ahead.
Delphi, if you still here, we need you to
Yeah,
jump
I'm
in
trying
because
to.
we're getting ready to cut
I'm
this
just being
one.
cordial, But I just want to say this: brother from Baltimore is right, okay? Because my mother's side of the family is from Maryland, and the black Europeans came in,
That's facts. So the
okay?
real pronunciation of Maryland
let
is Northern.
Hawkeye finish. Baltimore, you know what?
I'm listening. My bad. He
So
just
you are
I'm
more to
listening.
No, I'm not. No,
Hawkeye?
I'm not subscribing to that. You have to look at it. People called them that. They didn't call themselves that. That's why there's
What
no history of them now,
what
right?
people?
That's number one.
Yeah,
Other
you're correct.
people,
All right.
But you
Who
know,
are,
whoever
who are
came
the,
You're
who
correct.
are
across,
these other people?
yeah.
whoever they came across,
Can I
Who are
make a
these
correction
people?
real
whoever they
quick?
came across. Brother, you're
Well,
not listen. We're not going to
hold on. Where you
I'm
jumped in the
telling you
middle of a
what it is.
conversation, well,
Yeah,
listen. Clearly, you ain't telling it the right way. So I'm just trying to go back and bring some clarity to this,
brother. All right, like
because
I said, I want to go back to two steps.
you jumped in the middle of a conversation that was already going on, and I don't think that's right. So let me go ahead and wrap up what
No,
I
she
was
she,
finna say.
she asked me.
Not
All right,
I,
go
well,
on, bro. You got it.
yeah, I know, yeah. So at the end of the day, the concept of Moor and Indian don't mix unless an Indian and a Moor had a baby together. And that's
All
what
right.
actually happened. That's what happened in history. So for you to come on the
Okay.
panel and say that the brother is right, it would be best if you clarify specifically what he
Okay.
right
What I'm
on.
trying to
Because
say.
because because when you
No,
say
I'm right.
that,
I'm right. You got it.
then that means what you're saying is everything he said is right. And I
No, I
disagree
said
with
he's right. Okay. All
and I
right. Can I
hold on,
get?
hold on.
I
Well,
got you.
Listen,
I got you.
Hold on. I'm not finished, brother. So at the end of the day, the concept of a Moor, the Moors came over here.
fact.
Point blank, period. We see these folks getting kicked out of Europe. They have laws written in the name of them getting kicked out of Europe.
I
The
know that,
people over
brother. I know
here,
that.
I'm
I
not,
don't
I'm
need to.
not,
I don't need to say that.
I'm not
Let
talking to you.
him
I'm
finish,
not talking to you, bro.
please.
I'm not talking to you. If you notice
Okay.
already, I'm
Okay.
not talking to you. This is, between me and the brother. So the Moors came over here. Um, I lost my damn train of thought. But anyways, yeah.
Right.
There's a Moor and an Indian is not the same thing. You
Fact
had
Okay.
check what
Indians.
I said to you, bro. Just
You
fact
had
check it.
All right. Well, listen. Y'all want to
well,
call
well,
them
well,
Moors.
well.
I'm saying black Europeans came
Lord have
here
mercy.
and mingled with our people. Okay,
I
that's
agree with
facts.
that,
That's proof.
but what he's
All right,
saying is
cool.
that the people that were here were Moors.
The
Okay,
black
I'm not
Bro,
getting
they
caught
was
up
a
with that
Marvin
because I don't
Khans,
subscribe to
bro.
that.
Like the
But what I
dudes.
want to say now, I want to go back to where y'all keep saying, "Oh yeah, this company came here." When people say this company came here, Those were militias and mercenaries. Okay, they wasn't a
I agree with that.
business. Okay, so we have to know that people are not saying that. So when you
So
say a company came here, people think it was a business and they came here. No, they were military.
well, it was business too.
No, it was military. The business was the front. That's how we can't find certain things because they hid everything under that. They were pillagers. Okay. So while we saying, oh, they had a trade company come here, no, they had militia, pirates, and all of that was in that trade company.
So
And the
what
white people.
Did the Bible have a pistol in it or something?
Say it again.
Did the Bible have a pistol in it?
Where's that coming from, brother?
This was
Because they whole goal was to come over here and Christianize the Indians. These are their words.
Okay. Okay. Now at the end of the day, so are you religious or something or not? Just asking. That's all.
No, I'm not religious.
Okay,
I
I'm not
grew I grew
religious
I
either.
grew up I grew up religious, just like the majority of folks. But once I
Ford and
realized,
Hawkeye. 3 minutes, please, brothers, because we.
okay, I'm
I just
sorry.
want to say this.
Yeah,
I just want to say.
you can close it out, Hawkeye.
I got
No, I
one
just
thing
want
to
to
say.
say this.
It's just one
Yeah, you got
definition I want y'all to look up
it.
that believe in the word Indian. Look up the word Sagamore. Look up what the word Sagamore mean. If you're having trouble, I can tell you right now.
But you only got
I
3 minutes.
know what a
All right.
Sega
You
Genesis
know
is.
No,
that more
Sagamore.
that
Sagamore. Among some North American Indian peoples, a chief. He was called the Sagamore. Like, come on, bro.
Who was his mom? Who was his mom and his daddy?
I'm just
Was his
giving you the definition of the
was his
word
dad?
Sagamore, bro. That's what they
I
was
know.
called.
And what was his mom? Whoever this Sagamore was, did he have a Moorish mom or a Moorish dad
They
and an
didn't
Indian mama?
use. If you going off the matriarch, like Rod Hayes said, they didn't use surnames. Everything was in
Well,
the last
if
name.
that's the case, that further proves that the Indians and the Moors are different because the Moors are patrilineal and the Indians are matrilineal.
The Moors, the black European Moors are different. Yes, they're still Moors though.
It's because
That's
they
just like
call
me being
Moors,
in the
they
game.
don't mean they talking about the
Hey, bro,
Moors because that's just only the English term of calling the people. Some people call them maroons. Some people call
Right,
them
right.
different. So why
they,
why are you trying to specify just because the word Sagamore? That don't mean it's they talking about Moors.
They are. It's all. That's why, like Taj Bay been telling y'all,
And
if you don't know,
even if they
they
was,
literally is more in the word.
even
It's
if
the
they, I'm agreeing with you, even if they were,
right.
right?
I'm not.
I'm listening.
They still a different people. I'm not saying that it actually happened. Don't get it twisted. I'm just for the sake of the argument, the 1.5 minutes that he has left. I'm just saying,
Why you put us on the clock like this?
it's not a good term. So I don't know why we dressing it up. It ain't nothing
It's
to
not a good term because of the specific Moors from Spain and France that y'all talking about, and I understand, but they not the only Moors. That's why you got to understand
correct,
etymology.
correct.
Anything with
Right.
M-A, M-I,
Baltimore.
M-E,
Baltimore.
There's
yes,
How
I'm
about this?
listening.
Since we're getting ready to close this out, so we shouldn't be all right. So, would you be interested in coming back on Sword? Would you be interested in having a conversation, and you two can just have a conversation about that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I
sure.
enjoy listening to all of y'all. You feel? I'm always
Okay.
learning, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
respect,
good.
respect.
we have a more
FaceTime.
discussion next time. Our subject is
One
going to
second,
be
Freedom. 1 second. Baltimore, put your information in the back chat for us real quick, and we'll set that up. And that way you guys can, because I'm definitely interested. Because again, that's not my lane, so I'm just sitting back and I'm listening to y'all
not
or
a
what have
debate.
you.
That's
And
for
Right.
I do struggle with understanding that the Moorish paradigm and how that and being like indigenous to the Americas. So I'm
Right.
look forward to that conversation.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's true, Wild Indian.
All right.
I just want you to know that's true, Wild Indian. But yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can have a more discussion. Yes, that would be nice to
Yeah,
have
we
one.
need to.
But there's a lot of stuff I want to get off from underneath my foot.
I
But
think. Can I just say this last part? I think when people get confused and say Moors American, you can convert to be anything you want, right? We see that now, right? You can convert to be a Christian, Muslim. So
where
why you
you
couldn't
from?
convert
Hawkeye,
back
New
then to
York.
be? Say it again.
Hawkeye, you from New York?
Yeah, I'm from New York, but my roots is
I,
Maryland and South Carolina.
I was saying that because I can hear your accent. That's the only reason why I
Yeah,
asked.
my roots is Maryland and South Carolina, so I could understand what
And
this
you
brother from
have
Baltimore is talking about because I got my roots. I know my shit We still got the land. We had a tobacco farm. We still got our land in Maryland.
All right, tobacco moles.
Right.
Rokindo.
Okay, so he's on point. What we got to understand is our people are everything today. So why we not looking at it like that?
Well, the bell done
You
went
can
off, and
convert.
we're gonna have the discussion. The bell done went off, baby. The
Okay,
bell done went off.
definitely, y'all.
So we're gonna go
Y'all
to
have a
sleep
good one.
tonight. We're gonna sleep tonight. And Hawkeye, put your information in the back, please. Oh, he done went off. He got okay. Okay. So we're
How
gonna
you
have
put
a
the
more
information in?
huh?
I said, how do you do the information thing?
All you need to do is put it in the private chat. In the
All right.
back private
All
chat.
right. Bet.
And then we can have a more discussion. I will call Taj, but I'll call, maybe I'll call someone who's considered more to add in on it, so it won't be, like taken over. We can all just discuss it and it not be taken over. But thank y'all all for coming and joining us tonight. This was a good conversation. We really loved it. Dots, you want to close out and say anything? Thank everybody, especially the sisters, for coming up.
Yes.
Love.
Love.
Brother Live, miss you.
Yes, and of course our cousins in the chat. Y'all was shouting out your surname, shouting out your tribe. I love that. Stuff like that makes me and I love to hear that on a day like Juneteenth, right? Even though Juneteenth is now officially over. And Rashad, yes, dots have a lot to understand. One thing I always, and I'm proud to say, because I know a fool is a person who thinks they know everything, and that's definitely not me, right? I'm trying to stay in the brilliant category. I ain't trying to be basic or brain dead. So I'm always open and I'm always eager to listen and learn, And then again, you eat the meat and you spit the bone. So I hope y'all enjoy the show.
Rashad just trying to make us stay on longer.
Yeah,
Rashad, stay on longer, Rashad. Now stop.
Make sure y'all like the show. Even if y'all disagreed with anything that you heard, you have a right to your opinion, right? That's right, on you. Nobody's gonna lose sleep over your disagreement or agreement. But you eat the meat and you spit the bone. So it was a good show. Make sure y'all like the stream. Feel free to share. And we appreciate y'all. We really appreciate y'all. Really and truly.
Good night, Zena.
Good night, Zena. Our African brother from Liberia.
From Liberia.
Liberia in the building.
All right. Good night, guys. Good night, guys. I did enjoy the show a lot. I learned a lot tonight. But there's no black Europeans. Those guys are Africans. Good night.
Good night,
good night. And all we need to do is party for the rest of the week. Good night.
Yes, good night. Peace, y'all. Bye.